Episode freaking 50. Oh my God. Was that not a perfect way for that to stop that music? Oh,
and then you blew it.
Then I blew it with that. Of course I did. Hey, welcome to the Hangout.
Welcome to the Hangout with Adam and Ryan. It's episode 50.
God, episode 50. This is a celebration. Like, I got like, hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
And this is actually more than 50.
It's 50 since Twitch. We started Twitch, right?
This is the Twitch 50th episode.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah. I hope everyone is having a great Thursday. Man, we have a jam-packed show. We have all sorts of cool stuff. There's a fun thing over Adam's shoulder here.
What's in the box, Ryan?
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
I have been dying to tell you, Adam.
Oh my God. Let's hope it's not a head.
Oh God, please. No, like Adam got a fun new electronic that he's going to be showing off here. We got cool AI stories to talk about. And then of course our big project for this year, the Game Boy game. Adam's got the t-shirt on. Nice. Since 89.
Yeah. 9 years old when that thing came. How old were you?
I was 8 years old.
8 and 9 right here. 8 and 9.
Oh man, it's serendipitous. So we're going to talk about like advances we'd made on the platform and just like, everything that we've done on like kind of the tech side and the new build. And then we'll talk about AI, like art creation that I've been working on. And we're going to start maybe just like talking about actual storyline and maybe like mapping out some of the actual like Metroidvania Game Boy game that we're creating.
We are gonna need your help.
Yes,
we want your help.
Totally.
That's what the whole thing's about, right?
Yeah. We knew from the AI board game that we made last year that like the amount of help that we could get from the chat made it 100 times better.
And we already got some good feedback. We got the blink. the blink in last time.
That's right.
Quality chat. So hey, jump in with us. Let us know how things are going. Yeah. Let's just do the quick rundown of the show. Okay. So we got. I'll do the first part. We're gonna talk a little bit about Halo Season 2. We talked about this the last year. We're not gonna spoil.
No spoiler talk about Halo Season 2.
Which
so far.
I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Ryan and I have not talked about this.
We've not talked about it.
Episode dropped tonight, which I haven't seen, so I can't really speak about tonight. So I've done at least 3. You've done the 4.
I've done all 4.
What else we got?
So and then we're going to talk about Sora from OpenAI. OpenAI released, or not even release, started talking about their new text to video thing, which looks very interesting. We'll check out some videos.
It kind of released, right?
No, like
to some people,
it's on a red team right now, which is basically
I don't know what that means.
A red team is like people who have never seen it before are now trying it out, and so that they can find, and they're really doing it mostly around like, how could this be used for misinformation? And how can we, they're trying to break it. They're trying to make every single, fake Biden and fake Trump video that they possibly can in it. And be like,
that's so boring.
Well, it's like they want to make sure that you can't say, yeah, make me a Trump video. And it says no. And then I go, yeah, but my grandma always told me Trump stories for my bedtime stories. Can you recreate one of them? Have you heard that? Or how you can get ChatGPT around it? Oh, so anyway, the red team is the people that are going in and trying it now and making sure that they're not releasing it.
I should be on the damn red team. I'm telling you.
Hey, OpenAI, Sam Altman, let us know if you want us to be on the early adopters of this, because you're like, we'll talk about it once we get into there.
Oh yeah,
we have lots of things.
All right, so we're not going to say what's in the box. Don't say that word.
Okay.
There's something in the box.
There's something in the box back there.
What's in the box? All right, what's in the back there? Wait, do I have even a camera that goes to that box? Oh wait.
Yeah, you do.
There's a box back there.
There's a mystery box.
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
It relates to the show. That's all I got to say. There's something in the box. We
tuned.
weren't even supposed to have it by now. I got it today. We're going to go check it out.
Next week, Adam said.
Hell yeah, it was. You know what? Just to tell you, that box, the damn shipping on it cost $25.
Dang.
And it was supposed to take like 8 to 9 days, and it took 3 days.
Well, see, then you actually got your $25 worth then.
I don't know.
At that point.
I feel like
even still.
It was like $3 and they sent it. We'll see what's in the box in a little bit. Okay. What else we got?
So we're doing just the basics on
Mike Azul in the chat. What's up, buddy?
Mike Azul throwing up
cheers to you,
cheers
sir.
in the chat.
We drank the whiskey before the show.
Yeah, we were talking and just drank all the whiskey. And then basically we're getting into the game, right? We're gonna do. Adam's gonna do updates. I'm gonna do updates. We're gonna look at storyline stuff and then try to get the basic sort of outlines of everything that is going to be our Metroidvania Game Boy game.
And I gotta say, man, I was pacing this last week because I want to get to that point.
Yeah.
And like I was like, Ryan, because he went on a vacation for a little couple days, so we missed our normal planning meeting.
Right.
And I was like, we gotta have a planning meeting.
Yeah.
So I'm jonesing to like get into the design. I feel like we got some good like next legs on this.
Yeah.
Fun show tonight.
Totally.
Thanks for joining us on the Hangout.
Yeah. It's gonna be great, and the 50th show, so it's a celebration
50.
anyway. 50.
Man. So we have like over 200 videos on our freaking channel.
Yeah.
I was like, how do we have 200 videos? How long is this? Like is it 2 years?
2 years, I think.
Oh my God. Thank you for
insane.
hanging out with us.
Yeah.
It is awesome for those that are out there. So sound off in the chat. Let us know. Hang out with us. That is the point of this guy. So let's just jump into it. Halo Season 2 Paramount Plus,
who I heard is maybe getting sold to Peacock. Maybe there's going to be some kind of merger. I think it's like going away. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars on this Halo season, apparently.
Really?
Like these last two, I don't know exactly how much it is, but I mean, the money is kind of on the screen. I feel like it looks good. Like when stuff is happening, I feel like it looks good. I don't know what, so tell me your general, before we get into 2, you watched season 1.
Sure.
What was your general take on season 1 for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah. Let us know in the chat too, if it was something that you watched. And so when we're talking about Halo, this is what we're seeing. We're not going to get any like little words and video other than this like screenshot, but Halo season 1, I didn't like it.
No,
I was not a fan of Halo season. So first episode, killer. I liked it. I like the fan service, even the first person view, and you got it. And then the season, just like I was like, this Halo? Is this Halo?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it.
Yeah. Hey, Stealth Mouse.
Hola.
So I was basically my commentary on Halo season 1 was that like it was a fine, competent action thing, you know, like watchable for sure, but forgettable definitely. Like and if you were a huge Halo fan, a lot to point out, like of why are you doing this, or why did you make that decision, or why are we going this way with the storyline, for sure. And so, but when I came into Halo season 2, you know, we had seen videos that it was like that there was, I don't think this is a spoiler because it's been in all the trailers and everything, but it's like the fall of Reach, right? Which is a huge
Which if they
plot
don't know,
point.
if you don't know, it's in the games.
Yeah, like it's in Halo 2, right? Like a bunch of this is in Halo 2. It was in the books. I mean, obviously not a lot of the very specifics that are in, you know, the second and first seasons of this Halo dramatization, but the major sort of thrust of the story is stuff we've already seen before, and it's the best stuff. Like of all of the movies and books, or the books for sure, and all of the stuff around Halo, usually the Fall of Reach is the best.
I would say so. And when we looked at that first series, I think what we said was this didn't like hit what we were hoping it would in terms of what we knew of Halo.
Yeah.
We were invested like
Right.
years on playing
Totally.
Halo, and we are super fans of the series, or not necessarily the show,
The game
but
series.
the game series. And so when we saw the first one, it was like such a flop after so many years of like waiting for it.
Like Bungie and even 343 afterwards built a cool world, right? Like they built an interesting world with interesting characters and storylines that went in it. But because it was a drama, it was like an action drama is what Halo is. Like it has to change a lot of stuff, or it has to, and especially Master Chief, I feel like changed quite a bit from what I expect of him. So Okay.
All right.
Season one.
Summarize. Yeah.
So that's season 1. You've seen 3 episodes of season 2. Have they turned the ship around in what you think?
So just a quick little history if you don't know. And if you haven't watched Halo, that's fine. But the idea is that season 1, they were like, hey, screw the game. We're throwing that out. We're going to act like we're like just going to make something new here. And so that
they added full characters, all sorts of stuff.
Like showed Master Chief's face, which is like
never a thing.
Like, it never has been a thing. It's like you're supposed to be you. You're supposed to put yourself in those shoes. Now you have a face to the guy.
Sure.
Well, whatever. They made some reasons as to why they wanted to do that. Season 1, showrunner out.
Really?
Showrunner.
Okay.
Season 2, new showrunner.
New showrunner.
That was why I'm actually in it.
So like,
Halo 2, I'm down. Like the story, it's better. I like it. I think it's getting better.
Yeah.
Now, no spoilers.
Okay.
I think that they were somehow able to like turn it around enough to say, all right, get this back on the rails.
Sure.
Let's start getting this a little bit more into to where it needs to go. So
Yeah.
up to 3. I don't know. I haven't seen 4 yet. It's captivated me.
Yeah. Hey, I feel like that's that. So in your opinion, like it's veered off of the track that it was on sort of Halo 1 and it's going down a different direction and you like it.
So yeah, it was to the point I was like, forgettable. I don't want to watch it. And I was like, I got to give it, because I did watch the first one. They kind of cliffhanged it. And then they jumped into this one. I'm like, okay, got my attention again.
What do you think about the fight scenes? Like, so the action stuff.
I think it starts to feel more like the game. I'm like the way that they framed the environment, maybe not exactly like the game was in the way that we did it, but they've been more true to it, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I feel that they've started to tell the story and started to like, we can't veer off like we did before because the story is great. Why would you want to go and try to make your own thing about it?
Yeah. Tell
people that didn't play the game the story.
Right. It did make me think. So as I watched season 2, so as I watched season 2, I was like, you're right. This is way more of like just the actual game. And I thought, do I just want a retelling of like Halo 1, but in movie form? I think I would take that above what this is. And so now they are kind of doing that. They're basically taking Halo 2 and remaking Halo 2. So my thing going in is I was like, I was not super, I was okay. I thought it was fine. I also think this is just fine. Like I would say episode 4, you haven't seen it yet. That is my favorite episode so far. And so that's good. Like I really do like that. And I think the action is good. I think they shoot it nicely. I think you could tell what's going on. Like there's a lot of hand-to-hand combat stuff, which is like interesting. And it shows Master Chief is a badass in it. Like that is the part that because Halo is about Master Chief being a badass, right? He is like the super soldier. And I get when you do a dramatic thing that you can't like just have a badass super soldier that is like super competent at what he is doing. To me, it feels like they've turned it a little bit too far. And like, I want Master Chief to be like competent in what he's doing. And he's great at the fighting stuff, but he sucks at everything else in his job. And I'm like, that's not Master Chief. Master Chief is supposed to be like amazing at like battlefield strategy and tactics, right?
Sure.
And that's what he does. Like when they go, holy shit, this is happening. He doesn't like freeze. He doesn't, think about all of the, like all of that stuff that a normal person would. He goes, holy shit, this is happening. Then you go here and you go, and this is how we're attacking it. And this is how we're taking it down. Right. Like that's what makes Master Chief badass. And I feel like he's not like this in that. He's like fucking up all the time. Excuse my language. Like, but he is just, like he tries things and then it fails and then he's getting thrown in jail and he's getting like yelled at all the time.
Spoilers.
Okay. All right. Like, but that is even in the first season too. And that continues into the second season.
Well, I would say that they tried to course correct. There's some other side stories that are like, like that. And so they're having to like fix themselves up. So as of this point, it sounds like I got to watch season or number 4. I don't want to spend too much time on it. We got some other cool shit to do tonight. But it sounds like Halo is back in action, at least with some of it.
I'm
right?
gonna watch some of it. And then Avatar: The Last Airbender also came out today, but I wasn't able to watch it. So full dude, I'm a big Avatar: The Last Airbender fan, and the new Netflix season came out. So I will probably binge that between now and the next show of the Hangout, and we'll talk about it then. So if you want to join in that conversation, watch Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Heck yeah. So current thing is, if you haven't seen Halo Season 2 or even 1, you probably need a little bit of one to understand where you're at, but maybe there's a recap if you get into Season 2. I almost feel like you could just pull on Season 2 and not have to worry about the first one.
But, you know, I did want that, and they didn't offer it. I was like, there's a bunch of places where when you start up Season 2, it gives you a recap of Season 1. I had to go to, like, IGN or something like that.
And so what Michael was saying in the chat is that when you talked about Last Airbender, I feel like they got the crap from the movie, and they're like, go 100% in on this other one. I've only seen previews, so I don't know yet.
My biggest thing is the two creators. The two creators were in on it and then bailed at some point. I don't like the direction that this is going. We're leaving. And I was like, ooh, that doesn't make me very hopeful for it. But I'll hate watch it if I need to. Like I'll hate watch that movie, that original movie.
That's all right. All right. Well, that's good. We got some new media out there. We'll check that out. Switching gears.
Yes.
It's been a while that AI has been out. And in this show, I think last year, 2023, was us exploring AI.
Yeah.
And we made some predictions, and I think our predictions are probably already off in a big way. But we're not trying to make the show this year about AI as much. We're going to use the heck out of it. It's a resource. It's a tool.
Totally.
But guess what? We're just going to give insights. We're going to give updates, but it's not going to be the focus. The video game, what we're making, we're going to put our brains into this. Yeah, we're going to use some AI at some points. But you know what? We are making the video game.
Totally.
And we're using our skills and our insights to make this go right. So anyway, though, there has been some new news. What's the news, Ryan? I'm going to let you get this one.
Well, so, talking about last year definitely being AI a huge part of the show is like we were following a lot of different AI companies that were coming up, right? Last year was a huge year of trying out new things and seeing what was working. And so one of the things that we played with on the show was text to video. And usually what these were quick 3, 4, 5 second videos that were weird, Will Smith eating spaghetti and all of that kind of craziness.
Terrible.
That happened. Like they were mostly terrible. And then so OpenAI has come out with now what they just announced, which is Sora for OpenAI, and it's text to video. And instead of being the 7 or 5 or 3 seconds that we have mostly played with, these are 1 minute long videos. And, right now it's sort of in the testing phase because
can't get it right now.
You can't get it. You can't play with this. There's not even a beta or anything else to sign up for or even say that I want to be part of this. But this is, you can see the prompt down there at the bottom. A stylish woman walks down a Tokyo street filled with a warm, glowing neon and animated city signage. She wears a black leather jacket, a long red dress, and black boots. And I think there's more if you actually hit more. But this is a long prompt to get this. And in some ways, it still looks a little weird, right? It doesn't look exactly, but it's a lot longer and a lot better than I see from a lot of these other.
I mean, just looking at the scene, if you glanced at that or if that was a cut scene from you might be like, yeah, whatever. It's like a little stylized thing.
Yeah.
The reflections.
Right, reflections in the glasses.
Like on the ground, like it says, the street is damp and reflective, creating a mirror effect and colorful lights. Many pedestrians walk about.
And right now, of course they picked out the coolest ones, right? I don't know how many they needed to generate or something, because all of these platforms do that. They go, here's our new text to video. And you look at the examples that they have on their website and it blows your mind. And then you go try to make something and it looks like, like a fever dream or an acid trip or something like that. Right. And do you want to show you want to, this is AI video now. Oh, you should definitely show this.
Yeah. Like this was provided by the chat
All
here.
right, nice.
So, I mean, I think that's actually Will Smith eating spaghetti.
Okay. All right.
Wait. Oh, here it is.
It's fun that he did this. Oh my god, you gotta turn that down.
It's louder for us than it is for everyone else. Oh my god. All right, so that was pretty good.
That was fun. But
thanks, chat.
this new Sora, like, it does look good. Show like, I want to see a couple more of these. So that's a good one.
All right, so let's go down. So again, we can't do this ourselves yet. They're just trying to show off like some of the things that are happening here. This one I thought was, I love the idea that we can start to get clips maybe from like the past. But here's the other thing. Also, I feel like it bastardizes the past.
Right.
Like cause I look at this and I'm like, yeah, that might actually, like, that's what it would look like. A drone shot of an old Western area. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, and that is the historical footage of a California during the gold rush is the only thing they put in. And that is, I feel like that's a very passable drone shot of.
Wait, what is that?
Yeah. What is
I'm
the?
trying to see what that is. It's like, is it a?
It's like, do it like. Yeah, it was like a big gold disc. Is that what you were seeing?
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
Right here.
Yeah.
You see it? Oh, you can't see it. This thing. It's like a sign.
Yeah. It's like a sun or something. Who knows?
It almost looks like the logo for AI, OpenAI.
It does a little bit. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I mean, but generally,
but these are way better. They're way longer than any of the other ones that we've ever seen. That I've ever seen before.
That looks fun. I didn't see this one yet.
Yeah, me neither.
He's in a
like a little snow globe.
Ooh, an eyeball like that.
So the crazy thing about this is that this is coming really quick from seeing 3-minute or 3-second videos of Will Smith terribly eating spaghetti. It just shows again like how fast this is going.
Oh shoot!
Like
this is like 3D. How long would that take? An actual 3D
exactly,
animation?
Totally, forever.
Oh my god!
And so once they get this to a point where I can repeat that kangaroo every time and get the same, like, see how giant they are compared to
yeah, that was bad.
Like there's some scaling issues with these types.
The
of
hand
things.
was like backwards and came together. I mean, but still, like we're complaining on little tiny things. That's
Sure.
a petri dish with some foxes on it. Let's love it.
But yeah,
I did see this one. This was cool. Because okay,
cool.
here's one of the things that I read about this is how much money would it take to make this shot if you were actually going to go do it?
I mean, you would do it in 3D, probably.
So even
right?
that, how much time would it take somebody to put it in 3D? And they're saying like, if you needed a quick shot of this and you were going to cut to it in a major video, who would even question that? You'd be like, oh yeah, that's cool. They put a bunch of TVs together.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it makes me wonder where this is going. Like, is there even going to be a Marvel Studio movies, right? Are there going to be big production movies?
Democratizing video in a way?
Like,
oh, wow, that's a
like,
good point.
it's going to be, I mean, why would there be that? Like, if anyone can just sort of do this and be like, all right, follow this along. Now cut to the interior of that vehicle that's bumping around, like it doing stuff, and now show her speaking. And now cut back to this. It just, and it can look that good. I feel like, I don't know how studios are gonna compete with that.
There's a line, and once you can just be like, trust that that's actually a real thing, we're just not gonna even question it.
Yeah,
and it's also scary because I can't trust anything. Are you for real right now? That looks kind of dang real.
Yeah, that looks
great. What was it? Prompt an orange octopus resting on the bottom of it for. Okay, must have talked about a crab in there. Oh my god, there was a huge prompt on that.
Hey, crab is crawling towards it.
But doesn't that look like almost like I would not think that was anything other than a crab like being stupid trying to mess with an octopus.
Yeah.
Damn. I didn't see some of these. This is the first time. A flock of
Paper
airplanes. That's so good. That she doesn't look well.
Oh man.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, I don't. And he's got double paws there.
Still, like,
I mean,
we're nitpicking.
exactly, totally
Nitpicking. This is amazing.
I think Mike Azul wanted to see the golden retrievers.
Where are the golden retrievers? Is it in there? That looks good. Like, look how many people there are and the other things that it's training on. Is there a golden retriever one? All right, here's the art gallery. So these are like almost from the outside, little snow things.
Oh, okay. So watch this one. Watch the perspective on this. Like isn't that supposed to be like, look how tiny like everything is, and then they just sort of shrink. But then where they're gonna walk over that railing?
Yeah.
Like she's the size of the.
But it's like the spaghetti. We're like saying this now, and then in like what 6 months we're gonna have a full feature film in this. Somebody's
100%.
making a feature film in this right now, guaranteed, or
Yep.
trying to make something.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Okay, Mike Azul put the golden retrievers in the chat.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. All right, let's check out the golden retrievers here. Hopefully, this is a good, safe video to put on here.
We're just trusting.
We're just very trusting. Oh, there's ads.
Of course.
You didn't tell us about ads, Mike Azul. Just kidding. I don't have ad block.
Good.
All right, here we go.
Nice.
The snow. That's so cute.
It is, man. It's really good.
All right.
You could tell a little bit that it's like AI though.
Yeah. So
like
hot takes. Sora, where are we headed with this? What's the future?
I mean, I think it's going to be the same. I think people are going to have the same troubles that they have right now of why ChatGPT hasn't or DALL-E hasn't taken over everything, is because it's hard to get something to look good consistently across lots of different things. It can do lots of great one-offs, and so we'll probably get a bunch of great weird video one-offs, but I don't think it's gonna bomb Marvel Studios next year. But I do think it's gonna help smaller studios look bigger than they are, right? Because it's going to help with some of those one-off shots of going here and there. And, you want a cool shot of 100 TVs in a ballroom. Like now you can get that shot without, buying 100 TVs or using the 3D.
Absolutely. So Sora is around the corner, and once that comes out, I think we're gonna be in a tough space. I'm thinking YouTube, like even the videos we do now, like any little shorts and things, it's just gonna be way more of a let's say it's a tool, but
it's gonna make great memes. It's gonna make great. Like animated GIFs of stuff that I'm going to see all the time now, as opposed to just fun images. And that could be scary in the sense of like, I don't necessarily want one of Joe Biden coming out the day before the election that says he eats babies,
You just gave somebody an idea on that one.
Baby eating GIF.
All right, so Sora, I think it's crazy that we're watching this go around. Yeah, it is
fast.
Something interesting.
Super fast. I feel like it's all going quickly at this point.
Are we ready to see what is in the box?
Oh, nice.
Is it box time?
The unboxing time.
Oh my God, I think it is. So, all right, quick story. Do we want to tell what's in the box? We probably talk about it after we say what's in the box.
Yeah.
So, we're making a Game Boy game, right? Mm-hmm. So we have Game Boys out the wazoo over here. So I got a repackaged Game Boy. This is a Game Boy Color over here. We got Game Boys SPs over here.
Nice.
So many Game Boys, and we're loading the game on the carts. So one of the things though that I was interested in, I've been interested in this for quite a bit of years, is a specific piece of hardware that can play original carts and also play ROMs and just have a much better screen. And so I've kind of not played with this or like wanted it for a while. I wanted it for a while, but I just never had a reason to do it.
Yeah.
And then we talked about it. Somebody else got it. Mike Azul, I think you got one.
Nice.
And then I was like, all right, fine. I have to get it.
I
So
saw that on
this is something that we are, so that was a good call out. On Discord, thanks for Mike. He started a thread on the video game. Thank you very much for that.
That was great.
And you can see what we're about to unbox. So I ordered this thing on Monday thinking it's going to come next week, and it got delivered today.
Literally today.
Hand delivered for the show today. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the back, and we're going to go check out what I got today.
Have you said what it is? You didn't even say it is.
I'm not
All
telling
right,
them.
great.
Nobody's going to know what
Perfect.
this is until we
Love
go
it.
to the back and we open it up. So
Great.
I'm going to go to the back. We're going to open the box and see what we got, right?
Okay. Drum roll,
I know.
please. And Adam was saying that it's like lots of different parts, right? So this isn't just going to be a your typical
there's
your
a
typical
couple-
unboxing with
Couple
stuff in
parts in this little thing, so we're going to see.
it. I love Stealth Mouse is like, what did Adam order?
It wasn't like crazy expensive, but all right. So I really do not know how this is going to come out as we open this box, but we're going to see what's in it. So I was really glad that they didn't make me have to sign for it or whatever it was. So when Mike Azul got his, he got his from the Navajo Nation, right?
What?
I don't know. So just so you can see, here was like a casing of my original Game Boy that you see in that yellow one that I had over there. So let's just give an example of some of the things we have. I got my little...
Oh, there's the Raspberry Pi.
There's the Raspberry Pi. So we got all the little fun tech we've been playing with on the show. But let's see what's in the box. All right. Ready for it?
Ready.
Oh, there's a little papers in there. What if it was the wrong thing? It's not the right thing. I don't know. What is this?
Yeah, that's true. It did come very much earlier than you thought it was going to.
It is the thing.
All right, yay.
It is the right thing. So what is in the box is the question. All right, first thing, nothing.
Get out of there.
Oh my
Don't
God.
need
What is
that.
this right here? What is this right here? All right,
Man.
let's see the first part. Okay, there's an accessory.
It's
got
the
it.
accessory.
We're going to put the accessory. I'm not going to open everything yet, so we're going to put this over here.
Okay.
All right, what else do we got in the box? I think this is the main thing. Oh, wait, there is something here. Hold on a second. What's in this little thing? Oh, another accessory.
More accessories.
Stealth Mouse, I'm sorry. Do not worry. It's all good. All above board here. I like this packaging. It seems very
Totally earth-friendly,
earth
recyclable.
friendly. So good job on these things. You like that it says accessory? All right. Oh, this one says dock.
Okay.
Oh, there's a dock involved
Got the
in
dock.
this. This thing's big. I thought this was the actual thing. All right, and the last thing, get this box out of here. Hey,
All right.
you should be sorry, Mike. You're the one that wanted me to.
Oh, dude, now you're throwing him under the bus.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, nice.
It's
there
a pocket.
It is.
It's a pocket
Yay.
for my.
It's analog. It's a pocket for your jeans.
All right, so what this is the analog pocket, which is what I could say is like a newer version of the Game Boy. So what it does is it plays original carts. It also will allow us to export things from GB Studio into a specific file that will allow us to be able to play our game and test it. But what's different about this is it uses some really cool different technology that we've talked about. Join us on Discord.
Yeah.
Mike Azul has posted the video on exactly the difference. There's a difference between what we're saying software emulation and then hardware emulation. And so we're not going to go into too many details in the show tonight, but if you want to understand, this one does hardware. Emulation.
Yep.
And what it essentially is going to do is as we put carts in, as we play our ROMs, it's going to play them as though it was the original system, but with a much better thing. I'm going to get into this. Should we open it?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, we should, right?
So is it basically an FPGA? Is that
an
what
FPGA? So
Okay.
you want to just give a brief insight, or I can give
So
some insight?
so I bought a Mister like a year or two ago, and that is a FPGA, which is a field programmable gate array, which is sort of different from software emulation that you could just play in a browser or something, where it's emulating the software. This is emulating the hardware of a Game Boy. And a Mister does the hardware of lots of different systems, but this one is like in the cool Game Boy hardware like style. And it really, what it does is it's meant to be so that you could take any game ROM that is from a Game Boy and play it, and it'll play exactly like it was playing it on a Game Boy. Wow, and the screen is so much bigger.
Yeah, it's supposed to have a lot more pixels on it. Well, I mean, there's a bezel there. It's a little hard to see.
Oh, sure, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But it's still bigger.
Oh my god, these keys feel so good.
Nice.
It feels real good. Like the heft on it is great. So
it's great.
I don't know what this looks like a button here. You got some volume. So yeah, you could fit some carts in here. Here, I want to go grab a cart.
Yeah, I want
to see how it fits in there.
You have, I'm sure you have something.
Oh, I got plenty. I gotta get my favorite though. Here, give me my Game Boy over there.
This yellow one?
Yeah, what's in it?
Tetris?
Hell yeah. Favorite game of all time
OG
is Tetris. And so it looks like, yeah, it just fits right in this back area here.
Nice.
Look at that.
Perfect.
Just sits on the top.
Awesome.
You got two little buttons on the sides here. So here's the deal. I think that Mike was saying that if I turn this on, it's I don't even know how to turn the thing on. Let's see if I can get it to turn on. I would assumed it was that button, but maybe not. I don't. We got something going on.
We got the analog logo.
Welcome to Pocket, baby.
Nice.
Okay. Short tutorial. Do we want to do the tutorial?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Let's see if I can get this.
I think you're gonna have to go slightly down.
It should autofocus, but maybe not. So press that to go back. Okay, so that's back. Got it. And this to continue. So that's the menu.
Because that's a Game Boy. That's a Game Boy thing, right? Not using the farthest right to continue.
Okay, press that for start. Okay. Wait, I'm confused. Press for select. Oh, it's this one. I see what it's saying. It's showing the two buttons here.
Down at the bottom, yeah.
That's good. Okay, I'm pressing it for select.
Do you just have to continue?
Oh, it's just I just have to keep hitting A. It's not actually hitting the buttons. So on the side, it's saying, "Hey, there's some buttons over here that you can turn that on and off." This is cool.
Yeah.
Oh, so you push both of them for mute. That's good. You hold the analog and you press this for brightness. Oh, that's kind of interesting.
Have to remember that. Playing that in bed.
Hold analog and press left and right to cycle original display mode. So if you're holding this and you're left and right, you're getting different kind of display mode. That's great. Press quick power to sleep and wake. Oh, so this is like a quick one. It looks like it glows too. That's awesome. Hold for 2 seconds to on and off. So this is also the on and off button.
Cool.
Oh, God.
Sign your EULA.
Yes. Jesus. How long would it take me to read this? It's like, you are now enrolled in this. And so now I got to go update the thing. Okay, fair enough. I heard that the update takes long. So it looks like we have an SD card on this side here. Let's look at the sides. There looks like some speakers there.
Yep.
On the top, there's not too much. There was the mute, and then also up and down, we got our power button. On the bottom, we have it's some sort of port. Which
I was going to say.
You got a USB-C, got some other things, an audio jack, which is awesome.
Oh, yeah, that is good. What is that port? Like
this one is, there's some different cabling that you can put into it that we're going to look at. So I will update this thing later because I hear it can take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So awesome. We got that.
Totally
what else
cool.
is in the box? Let's see here. So we got a little tiny something. I don't know what this is.
Oh, Mike Azul says you can skip the update if you want, and it'll let you put it in a cart.
Oh, you can skip the update. Let's see. Let's see if we can get that. Gotta hold that for a minute. We'll get that going. We're gonna look at what else is in the box as that reloads. So we got some cabling in here, which is what? Just USB-C? Yep, just a USB-C.
C to C.
Yeah, which is classic for now. So we're gonna skip that tutorial. Yeah, because we definitely want to see how this thing works. If we can.
Yeah, it'd be neat. It'd be neat if it could boot up that Tetris.
I gotta watch the dang EULA again.
You know,
Come
it's
on
like
now.
you're like you can't remember me.
I already agreed that. All right, play cart. Cool.
There we go.
Let's load this sucker in here. Man, this is great. Oh God,
go.
look at that screen.
Looks nice.
It's so big. It is so big.
It's like watching it on a big screen as opposed to your home TV.
Oh my God, you don't know. You don't know.
It looks very crisp too.
Yeah, it does. Can see my reflection in there. All right, I got to play a game. First game on here. Got to see how this goes. Oh, it feels so good. Those controls are right on. Oh crap! I hit the wrong button. There's 4 buttons, so that's a difference that I'm used to. Because the original one has 2.
Only 2.
This feels so much better than playing it on my phone.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
All right, let's see if I could.
If you hold the analog button and do the left and right D-pad, it will change the display colors.
Yeah, that's what that was. That one where you're like, hey, you got to remember this one. Oh man. I'm going to have to get used to those extra button placements. I'm just not used to it. And I'm like...
hitting them by accident or something?
Yeah, I wonder if... But it must be for... I'm trying to think like what other games would use that.
Super Nintendo games.
Yeah, but it only does GBA games right now. Like they said that it might come up with some other games. This is so good. That
feels
screen,
good, though.
like the feeling of it.
What's
right
that?
Now?
How's that D-pad? I know
very
like D-pads
good.
are
very good.
Controversial sometimes.
I'm telling you. So, I have to play my Tetris.
I was gonna say, like, are we gonna try to?
I get one shot. This is the shot.
This is the shot.
This is my shot.
Because are you playing the hardest?
Yeah,
whatever
this is the absolute hardest version of
Okay.
Tetris right now. Or at least on the Game Boy version of it.
Adam played this on the live stream, our
Yes,
24-hour live stream, and beat it.
Hell yeah, I did.
It's great.
This is it feels really solid. Like I love these controls right here. And it sounds good too. I can kind of hear it through.
I was gonna say what is I can't really because I have these headphones on and everything. I can't really.
I mean, from this side, you can definitely hear it because the speakers on the original were a little sus at certain times.
Was there a headphone jack in the original?
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a headphone jack in the original Game Boy.
Yeah, this is amazing.
All right, see, maybe it was the whole like. See, you're killing it. Maybe it was the whole.
Don't jinx me, man.
No, now I gotta jinx you.
Yeah, you got me jinxed. Shit.
See, he's messing it up.
Oh shit! I really did mess it up. God damn it.
You, Ryan.
Oh! One line. I was one line away from beating on a stream. All right, this thing is sweet. That was an amazing run. To even get to that far was pretty sweet. So this is I'm super stoked about this. I'm like, I don't think you realize how awesome this is to have a Game Boy. Let's look at some of the other pieces.
What one thing about it is it obviously plays cartridges, right? But then the idea is that you would upload ROMs to this thing and you would play every single Game Boy game that ever existed on it, right?
You can play any of those different. Okay, so
Game Boy Advance games.
Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color as well. So you can do any of those. So this was something that I got just because I wanted to see if we might be able to make some music with it. So it's called the Nano Loop Pocket because there's a whole program on here that allows you to connect it to an audio board. So you're asking what that cable is?
Yeah.
That's what this cable is. And it goes right into a MIDI board. So you can do this to create music.
Cool.
So that's what that cable is. That is a very hefty box, I got to say, for that. This is the screen protector, so I'm not going to open it.
Sure.
But this is the other piece to this. And Mike Azul was telling me about it. It has that same chip in this dock. And I'm not 100% sure why it does, but it allows me to HDMI the thing into one of our ports. This is the dock for the thing. So this little dock,
okay,
looks like there's a power brick. It has an HDMI. So what you can do is you mount this little guy right into the dock.
Okay.
I'll have to play with it. Let's see here.
Sure.
Like that. It's
nice. That looks slick.
And it just sits there, and there we go. You got USB, power, HDMI, and USB-I.
Nice.
So I don't know exactly about the dock. I just wanted to make sure I had that. So it helps charge it, helps do all the things. So there you have it. This is kind of where we do a lot of the testing in there.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, and I feel like
sweet.
Are there certain types of Game Boy games that you're thinking that you want to play? Like that you, I don't know.
All of my Game Boy games?
Yeah, right? Yes. I was going to say, is it the nostalgia thing, or is it like a collector's thing of being like, I got to go in and play all those games that I couldn't play when I was in, middle school? I think
one of the reasons I got this is that I do have the original Game Boy, which I can play all of this stuff on it right now. But this is, the audio is great. The controls are tuned in. I have an ability to now play our game as we start to play this a little bit further down the line. So when we do testing on the SD, chargeable lithium battery. But one of the things is the screen itself has more pixels, and I can't remember the exact details, but essentially it looks crisper and it keeps the original look at those pixels, but it does it at a higher definition kind of rate. So,
well, I'm sure.
Awesome.
I'm sure if they're like selling that part of it, they're like, we know it's only going to play Game Boy games, so like tune that LCD screen or whatever to this particular type of video that we're going to be putting out. That's cool. Does analog make other things? I assume they do.
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not actually 100% sure, but all I know is like right now I'm as giddy as I was when I originally got my first Game Boy. That Game Boy back there was the first one I got in my life.
Nice.
When I had a first game system, and now it's next to this other one that I was able to get.
So is there like, because obviously you want, or I assume when I got my Mister, I wanted all the games, right? I want every single Super Nintendo game, right? And every single one of these. And but it was like a pain in the butt, right? Like there wasn't just a Mr. FPGA site that you went to download things. It was like a whole big thing of like uploading different updates to, like, is there just an analog site that you can go to get all that stuff? Or do they just kind of go, hey, this is for entertainment?
Yeah, it's basically what it is. Like, because it loads the carts. Like a Mister doesn't load the carts, if you think about that.
No, absolutely. You can't use your own. You can't use your own carts like on a Mister. It's all downloading ROMs. But I was just wondering, like it was kind of a pain to do that, and I was wondering if this was like a more advanced style of something.
I think it's focused. It has potential to do like a lot more, but no, they don't really like, hey, go, here's the ROMs,
because those are all illegal for the most part, right? Like they can't
right.
be like, we built a whole system around that, because then everyone's gonna like throw the book at them. But if it's kind of just out on the internet and ROMs are out there, but you can get them.
It's not about the ROMs as much as it's about the new Game Boy games. Just like the one we're making, Skull Bob's, is the whole point of that. That's the sweet part about it.
Does it connect to the internet? Is that how, or you're
no?
Like
you load it on SD and you chuck that in there. Yeah.
But like all those itch.io games and all that stuff.
You can load all of that, and you can put it on an SD card, shove it in there, and now you're able to play it. So
that's awesome.
I'm going to be playing with that. Mike Azul has that for testing as we start running through this. We can still play it on original hardware, but I had to go that direction. I've been wanting one. So here's the quick backstory on that.
Okay.
When it first came out, people were ordering it, and it took almost a year for them to get it. So I waited it out, and I got it in 3 days or 4 days. So that was pretty sweet. All right, so let's keep moving on, because that was a fun unboxing. Man, that's awesome.
That's going to be exciting. I can't wait till next time when it's filled with amazing, different, crazy stuff. And you know what'll be great is like you'll get into this and you'll know all the stuff, and then I will siphon off of it and help my Mister collection.
Yes, you will, and that's cool. You have the Mister, I have the analog, and there we have it.
Now we have classic gaming, more classic gaming.
Continue, and I can play all my retro games on it. That's the cool part of that. So
cool.
All right. Latest on the platform in tech, Ryan.
Yeah.
What have we been up to this last week?
Well, transitioning to our game, and our game is, you know, we're doing a Game Boy game. We're doing it in GB Studio. You know, like last we did, Adam did an amazing job of like showing GB Studio and kind of like maybe why we should choose that, right? Because of like, you know, just being able to like keep the scope small, keep like some corridors, some rails on this so that we can like stay in scope. And GB Studio seemed like a good one to be able to work in. Adam has worked in it before. Like it seems to fit what we want to do for our first game of this. And Adam has taken it even further over the last 2 weeks, building it out, right? Like trying to get sort of scale in this and see what that looks like. So I'm excited to see more about it.
Hell yeah. And so one of the things, if you watch the last show, Ryan had given me some ideas on how can we potentially build this out. And actually, before I go into showing this off, what I want to show is what Ryan produced the last time we were on here.
Yeah.
And I need to actually, do I even have last time on here? I should have last time. I don't. Do you have what we had from last time in this file?
I don't
Probably
think so.
not.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, this tiny screen is on right here.
Oh, thank you. Bye, little tiny screen.
Bye, tiny screen.
So, tell me as I start to find this. When we did this last time, you had produced a bunch of different like graphics, and you were trying to like push it, and you did find up. Like, here are some tiles. We ended up with some tiles the last time you played the game.
Yeah. So last time we kind of didn't have any. We were just been sort of using like Adam had drawn stuff, and we are like, okay, what if like we had slightly more sophisticated, you know, tile sets and a run animation. And so I sort of took what Adam had started, and we sort of did some AI stuff with ChatGPT, but I basically ended up sort of drawing it in Photoshop or Sprite and building this kind of myself. And so that was good. It gave us a guy, gave us a little run cycle, and we kind of switched out in the new version that we played. And it seemed to work okay. Like it sort of proved that we could just like make something like that, and that it was pretty simple. And I also created just some like 8x8 background elements that we could just tile around.
And so that's a great transition. So here is what Ryan produced last time. So at the end of the show, or close into the middle of the show, he's like, hey, I made these little pixel things. So you got a little barrel, you had some laddering, a skull.
Piece of a ladder, yep.
And then
like gravel.
And
and
I didn't use some of these, but
that one's brick, right?
Yeah,
so if you tile it, it will look like a big brick wall.
And so we may use this in a second, and I'll show you what I did. Is I was like, okay, you did the thing, Ryan. These are 8x8 little tiles.
Yep.
And you produced it. So I was like, okay, let me see what I could do with your tiles. And so I went ahead and into the game, and this version of it uses exactly what you had. So of course we're on the board of adjusting things. So there was a couple pieces. I'm not in Ace right now, and I'm actually in GB Studio. So you'll see these are the tiles that you produced. There's those barrels. There's some skulls in there.
Yep.
I just wanted to use some versions of even like little like concrete bricks or whatever you made. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this part of the game, and and what I was trying to do is saying, how big of a map can I make?
Yeah.
So we can start exploring this in different ways, and what are some of the options that we have as we go through this.
Yeah.
And so this is a realization, again, just testing. This is not like the game itself.
Yeah.
This is much more like the mechanics and like how are we going to build this thing. And honestly, I think we can do a lot better on how the design looks.
Sure.
And so what I did was I got the A-Sprite set up. I figured a way to go ahead and build it out so that we can do some of these next things. Let me get this a little smaller right here.
There we go.
So those tiles, not the very background, you'll notice are now in the game. So there's some of the things that you made.
Nice.
So I added a little weird jump to this, so he looks like he's like a ball.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Yep.
But first of all, I did add some fire. He's not burning right now. I didn't make a thing. So first of all, notice I can jump up through this.
Right.
So that was just me playing. So my son, I said, hey, here's some tiles. Here's the thing. Make me a world so I can play it. So this is my son's world.
Hey, nice.
And so it actually plays better on a device, but let's see here if I can make it happen. So you could actually like get your way through jumping without hitting the fire. So if the fire was something that would kill you, then can you make it through this like little parkour part of the map? And there's apparently a little guy that I put in there. So typically you'd be burning. But I wanted to try to figure out, can we make this actually a map? There's your barrels there.
Yep.
I did expand the tiles on the ladder, but it
was like too small.
I just don't like actually how it worked because it's really two ladders right next to each other. And
Sure.
I just was playing with it. So here's the thing, going to the left, going to the right. I made it to where like, hey, I can't get to the ladder. I really want to get up there. So you have to get on the barrels and make it like a jump, and then you can get on the ladder and you can do all your stuff. And I just reversed the world. So you're back on this side. You have to do the reverse that. Okay. Now we wouldn't probably do that in the real game, but there you go. I made the jump. And then I got to the top of this, and you're going to see something new that I was really stoked about, which is going to be a crazy dimension to this game, in my opinion.
Okay.
So you see the barrels there, and I was running in front of them before, or jumping on top of them.
Well, it's like you have been on the top of everything, right?
On the top.
At this point.
So then I could go behind them.
Now
there's you could see him behind some of the barrels, so we'll have to figure that out.
Right.
But I also made it, you can kind of jump on them. I put some other little things so you can get past that door. So for us, the ability to say, hey, you can go behind these things,
right,
opens huge doors for us.
Yeah. Especially just like, because it's cool to have all that depth, right? Like you want some things in the foreground and you want some things in the background and you want him in the midground. Like, and so it just like, it will look more visually interesting with being able to do that.
And you could put puzzles a little bit with this behind the scenes, like, hey, you go in this little area and, oh, did you know you go behind here and you get this little thing?
Like it doesn't look like you could go behind there, right? But then you can.
So the point of this test for me was, number one, the tiles that Ryan make, how easy is it going to be
to put them
super
in there? Super easy. Great.
I found out you can have 192 unique tiles per level.
Yeah.
Per kind of thing that's
8
on
by
here.
8.
8 by 8, 192.
And how many 8 by 8 tiles make up one screen? It's 192, but like, is that half? Is that
so? It doesn't matter. Because you can, once you repeat a tile, it doesn't matter. So this one is a huge level. I think we could even keep pushing it. There's nothing that's constrained me thus far on saying I can't keep going bigger. As long as the ratio is 8 by 8, or in multiples of 8, you're good to go.
Multiples of 8, yeah.
So the other part of it that I was playing with, and so now you can see like I'm in front of this one, but I'm behind this one. That was just me kind of playing.
Yep.
I just wanted to see like, could we kind of approach an RPG style game?
Yeah.
And so this is an example of that. So I recreated the character in RPG style. I found a walk cycle that was kind of cute online that I kind of replicated. And the idea was like, would it feel awkward or would it be different to go from platformer to RPG? And I think there's some options that we can think about. Look at this tree thing I did. Like you can go hide behind the trees as you're walking around. So I was playing with that. I was like leaning into the idea. Now you really wouldn't be able to walk on a house.
Be able to walk on
but I love the idea that like you could kind of see through the trees.
Right.
Like
that is
it
cool.
Felt like you're actually in and out of this world and there's things in front of you.
Yeah.
So this was just an example of a world. I don't think I even had any other actions on this, but it looks kind of cool. We'd have to fix the walk cycle. You probably wouldn't look like that when you're walking up and down.
But you know,
but it looks pretty decent.
Totally.
So that was it.
Yeah.
That's great. That was the test. And then, you know, you get dropped back out and you're back in the world and you're able to do all the things that you would want to do.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, when we get into like the layouts of things that I did already for the story, I've added some things since I showed it to you on Monday, and I was like, what if it went from this style to this style, right? Like,
awesome.
Does it like where do we add you know, are we gonna have a whole style for this type of level, and like, is it awkward to go from one to the other? So
I'm anxious to see what you did. One thing I was going to quickly show you is that in this version, I did put some like things on the fire. In this particular one, I'm not touching the keyboard. Nice. He's bouncing and like
bounces you up.
Like he's burning. I was like, that's kind of just a random cool effect I was able to figure out that allows him to like do a little bounce on it. So I put some scripts on it, and this one I made it to where you can't actually jump up through this.
Oh man, that's a lot harder.
So you'd have to jump around it,
Yeah.
and you do. So I was just practicing with some parkour. The problem that I found was that if we do a fully parkour style Metrovania, like it took me a minute to get up to the top of that.
Sure.
Like, so we are going to have to really build in some story, do a lot more like thoughts on how this is all going to work out. So you're going back into the regular level now, and then you're able to play like these things. Let's look at the gun. Oh, don't get me, guy. Oh, shit. I got him. So the only other thing that I would say that was kind of cool that I figued out was, let's see if I can make it on the keyboard. It's kind of hard. All right.
Nice.
Is this one. So I had it bounce you up. I was like,
nice.
That could be a sweet feature where you have to be like,
it's like grenade jumping.
Grenade jumping, all the like fun mechanics. If we just took just the mechanics of this, I think we could deliver some pretty cool things. So the next step on this is we really got some bigger worlds we can create. We need to start filling it in a little bit more.
Yeah.
We need to make some decisions. Do we want to transition?
Do we know how big is this game? Like, because we're only allowed 4 megabytes, right? Like in total. So this one right here, because it has the little RPG level and it has like some enemies and it has an exploding thing and a big long level. I was just curious, like what we're at. 3.5.
No. That's not that. We're not 3.5 megabytes because in the assets folder, I put like all of the actual A-Sprite files. I think the full GB Studio. Let's see here. Let me see what the build is under the ROM. We were really short. Like it was very small. Let's see if I go to the side here. The full game build file is 256 kilobytes right now.
Okay.
So we have plenty of room to grow in this.
That feels like 1/16th, basically, right?
I
of what
think
an entire game would be.
I don't know, because if you redo the tiles, we should be fine.
No, I know, but so here's what I keep thinking about the art stuff, right? You're gonna have a majority. You're gonna have 80% of recycled tiles, right? They're gonna be background walls. They're going to be floor items. They're going to be the parts that you jump on, the ledges and things like that are all going to be recycled.
Sure.
But then you want obviously you want enemies and you want your main characters that you're going to do and all of that kind of stuff. And you're also going to want set pieces, you know, where you go into a level and you're like, holy crap, it looks amazing. And that's where you really want to push it and use all those 192 or whatever, unique 8x8 tiles.
Sure.
But I was like, how much of that do we get? Right? Like how much of those cool, unique, amazing sections can we build and be like, oh, you know, we're still under the 4 megabyte cap.
So that's where I think we're going to have to play through this and start playing with it. But I've gone through a couple other GB Vania games, and there's people that use a lot bigger kind of stuff in here. I feel like I have one that I was going to try to show you here. Let me see this one. This was this is a level design one. Oh, I'm not going to do this. You can't see that.
And I know I played a couple of those on itch, and obviously you know, they do plenty. They have plenty of stuff. I think it's going to be figuring out those 80% mostly, right? And trying to be okay, got to make sure that we keep it inside of.
So here's an example of someone that built a Metroidvania style game. It's only just a few levels, but it actually has a bunch of stuff. And so notice how there's a lot of just empty space in some of these things, and then some tiles. So it's not like every single tile is filled out.
Right.
Those blank spaces don't take up anything against some of that. And then when you click on one of these, it will tell you how many actors there are, how many sprites, and then how many triggers there are. And there's not that many. And you'll notice there's a bunch of little scripts in here. So I wanted to show this one off because this is a Metroidvania game. It's here. There's some errors on this one. This one is because I just had to update it from, it just says it's a warning. It's not saying it. Oh, it does say error though. compiling events, error, event group failed. So this is probably because I had to upgrade it to 3.2. But what this particular game is, and
Can
we'll
we
have
play
to,
it on itch or something? Just like
I think we can. There's a GB Studio export on this one, so we'll have to play with that particular one. Maybe not right this second.
Sure.
But what I wanted to show you is that the whole level doesn't have to be every tile filled in with like kind of pieces.
Right.
I've seen huge ones where they have all kinds of different levels and pieces and parts. I think we're going to be good.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what's nice about making a game that we're thinking might take like an hour, right? As opposed to trying to make something like a like a full Metroid game, which might take 6 hours, right?
All right, so Ryan is going to show us some of the work he's done. So platform-wise, I feel very comfortable that we're making the right steps to move forward. Where do we need to be in?
Yeah, well, so maybe I will bring up some of this.
So Ryan's going to get to his assets. Is that what you're going to show us off today?
Well, so what happened? Where we had been at prior to literally 2 days ago was like we had been the kind of caught between two worlds. There's the AI generated stuff, which like I know we were talking about this isn't all AI like stuff like maybe the board game was. But part of me goes like, you're going to need a ton of art assets for making a whole bunch of levels like this. And if I have to go in and make my own little pool table for our bar, for our tavern, like that might take me an evening to like find a cool bar thing and then like trace it or do like a design work inside of a sprite and be like, in the end of that evening of work, I have a kick-ass little bar, little pool table that we can use tiled throughout the entire bar, right? But like, I want to make 10 of those assets a night. And, the only way that we're going to be able to build out an entire game of doing stuff like that is by being able to make 10 of those different things a night as opposed to just one. And so I was like, man, there's got to be a way to use these AI generators to do that. And the problem was that like, let's say I wanted to, I'm done on the idea of making an entire scene. Like I'm more into like, I need a bunch of little pieces to make up that scene, right? Because you're reusing stuff. So if I can reuse that same barrel over and over again, then amazing, right? Like now we have that. Or if I can use that same pool table multiple times in the thing, I don't want a bespoke scene with a bunch of different pool tables at different angles. I want a kick-ass pool table that I can use in multiple different parts of our tavern. Okay, so the issue was like, do you want to switch it over to here? Like I'll just do...
Oh, it's like an isometric pool table.
Yeah, okay. So let's say you go to Dolly and I go, I need an 8-bit pool. So like, I need an 8-bit Game Boy pool table, in a simple pixel art. And I even told it with these exact colors, which are the Game Boy background colors. And like, it does not necessarily do that amazing of a job of this, right? Because for one thing, this is how, like, this would be an entire pixels worth of like our entire Game Boy game screen tall of pixels for this, right? Like it's too dense in pixels.
It's too unique.
It's
in all
too
those
unique,
tiles.
right? Like, and the other thing is it's BS pixel art, right? It's sort of fakey pixel art. Like you can't have this in pixel art. Right? Like that just doesn't, those would need to be all their own little individual tile,
They're
like their own little thing, their own little
squares.
And this stuff just isn't. It's faking it. And so, I go, great. Like that looks neat, but it doesn't do what we need it to do. Okay. So then I can tell it like, I need it simpler than that, right? I need no angles. I need these don't use any other colors except for these Game Boy colors. And it still doesn't do a great job, right?
Looks like a lightsaber kind of thing at the bottom.
Exactly. These ones, awesome. It was like long stick, something. It's still using gray. It's not using the right colors. Like this isn't what we need. So this is, we've already talked about this. Okay. So then I was like, how can I get these simpler? If I just keep telling it, make me more simple, blocky Game Boy things, it doesn't do it. But what is nice,
I like that bar though. It looks good.
right? So then what I found is like, if you tell it I need a sprite sheet, what it does is it tries to put a ton of stuff on the screen, which in a way makes it even blockier and smaller and simple because it has to, right? And so in this case, like, this looks more like an 8-bit bar, right? Like this stool, I could see using that as like a little 8-bit, you know, like maybe a 32 by 30, 16 by 16 bar stool, right? Or this foosball table is a little weird, you know, it didn't know exactly
got a couple
what
extra.
This is also, I think, a foosball table, but it did not know what any of that was.
Looks like it has a little goalpost right there. I love that.
It doesn't know. It hasn't figured it out yet. Like, what is this?
It's a ball. It's a golf ball and a tee.
Anyway, but you could see where you would get you could get a whole bunch of pieces out of this, right? So I was like, great, that's at least a better start to where we're going, what we need. So then I was like, okay, like I was giving it different little prompts, but it would not give me the right colors. Like, and again, you're still like looking at this and it's like, that's not pixel. Like they're not filling up the exact pixel area, right? So I was like, okay, but I do like that this pool table, right? Like that looks like, you know, something that I could see in maybe the RPG like screen, right? Or even just in the side scrolling, they're walking through the bar and here's the pool table in front of it.
Got it.
Okay. So I took the pool table and I was like, great, put it in a square, and I cleaned it up a little bit. Like I didn't like how long the legs were. And so I shortened the legs some, and I was like, and I just kind of cleaned it up slightly. Okay. So, but now that I have this, it's the wrong colors, and 2, it's not actual legit pixel art, right? It just sort of has the right feel for what I have. And if I take this, and what I had been doing before is basically taking things like this into Sprite and having to trace it. And so I would go in and I would bring it into Sprite and I would make it 64 by 64, 32 by 32. And then I would go in and sort of fill this in myself. Too long. Like even getting
tracing,
into this,
Ryan?
tracing this shit. I don't want to trace any of this. I just wanted to do it itself. And I want to do this all through text like stuff, because that's the only way we're going to get through this.
Right.
Okay. So this is where I was up to 2 days ago, being like, man, we're going to have to make every single one of these sprites, and I'm going to have to go through in Sprite and trace all this stuff or make it all myself. Ugh, it's going to take forever. So I did some research and I did some searching on, have you heard about the new amazing site? Oh, what is it called? I have it. Hold on, let me look in our Trello. Perplexity? Have you used Perplexity?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Perplexity is a thing that is a search engine specifically made with AI, generative AI. And so what it does is you put in, I need this question, or anything that you would put into a normal search engine. And instead of it being conversational like ChatGPT is, it goes, no, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get you that answer and come bring it back to you in 3 or 4 sentences, a summary of it. And so that's what Perplexity does.
Okay, that's cool.
And so you might think about using it. I've been using it a little bit. And I asked Perplexity, I was like, what is a faster way to make legit pixel art style stuff? And it gave me a few websites. And 4 of those websites were absolute garbage and did not do what it said it was going to. But the very last one, Adam, was a site called Pixelfy.
Oh yeah.
And like, I will bring up Pixelfy right now. And Pixelfy does 2 things. And 2 things very well that I need software to do to get these images ready to actually be Game Boy Studio sprites. And I'm going to look at the examples. But basically what this is it's a pixel art AI generator made by one dude. And he says, hey, do you want stuff that looks like JRPG adventure? Do you want it to look like these little cozy
Looking
things?
good.
Like, do you want landscape stuff, right? Do you want fantasy or RPG things? And now what you might be thinking, and what I thought right now, is I was like, this is going to be some horse shit, just like all of these other ones. It's fakey pixel. Because to me, what this looks like is like they generated some Mid-Journey stuff and put a pixel filter over the top of it.
Yeah.
That's what this looks like to me. And so I was very like skeptical that this could do anything for this. And then it was like, well, here's 16 by 16 pixel portraits. And I was like, interesting. 16 by 16, you say? Everything else just goes, it's whatever. Like, you can't tell it to make things in the exact pixel. But if you look at this and I count these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 16. It's actual 16 by 16 pixels, right? Just like these 32 by 32 skill art things. Like, I don't know what any of these are, and I don't care about any of these like styles that he has done, right? But what I do care about is getting something to look like a pool table, right? Like in that thing. And so what I could do, and I bought 200 credits, and I'm down to 81 credits.
Okay. How much is a credit?
You get 4 images for 1 credit. And I think, no, maybe I bought 100. I bought 100 for $20.
Oh, damn.
So it's kind of expensive. And so what you wouldn't want to do is say like, I'm going to burn a credit.
Oh my God.
Okay. And I'm going to just say old pool table.
Wait, do we already have a pool table though from this?
Yeah.
Well,
but I want to see, but
okay.
I want, it's
okay.
like, who cares? It's like a nickel. Okay.
You just said it was expensive, Ryan.
I know, but it's expensive compared to it costing $0 or whatever from these other places.
Game Boy's 2 words.
And you know, you shouldn't even have to say Game Boy, right?
Yeah.
In a Game Boy style, maybe.
Do you want to change the grid size, or is that going to be fine?
Well, and so like, yeah, I want to look at that. Okay. So maybe, you know, we could do 128 or 64. There are kids that have it that don't have it. Tell those kids to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and, you know, get some AI credits. Okay. You notice you can't do 16 by 16, right? It doesn't let you.
Why?
It's too small, I guess.
For your prompt or what?
Yeah. Like, no, just for this. So notice that there is a 16 by 16 pixel portrait, and they allow you to do that with there, but not with just for the normal ones. So let's say I did 32 by 32.
That's pretty small, but yeah, go for it.
Well, like, if you think about it, how tall is our character?
16?
No, he's 16 high.
Yeah.
His waist is 16 and his legs are 16. So he's 32 pixels high is our character. So if I wanted a pool table, I wouldn't want the pool table twice as tall as him, probably, right? So it needs to be kind of a 32 by 32. So let's see what it does, right?
Do you have to do a custom color palette?
Okay. So here is the one thing that I love about this. I can tell it I want to do a custom color palette. And so let's look up. I'm just going to GB Studio, right? And I want backgrounds. And here's the colors that I can use as backgrounds for this. Now, I've already written this guy who's done this Pixelfy on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I was like, buddy, you gotta let me save these because every time you do this, you have to go in and be like, now this one.
What did he say?
He didn't say it. He hasn't written back yet. And I also wrote him with a suggestion of some of these examples that you're using here. One of them should be freaking Game Boy so that people can make these Game Boy Studio art assets out of your stuff. I said it nicer than that though, so who would actually do it?
He's got to have like a thing. Yeah, presets.
Okay.
That one looks black.
That's the dark color one, right?
Yup.
Okay.
Yeah, presets for games. Like this is a classic one. All right, I'm excited here.
Okay, so now we've told it. We want an old pool table in a Game Boy style. It's going to be 32 by 32, and it's going to use only these colors.
And you have 4 images you're getting out.
And we're getting 4 images for our one little credit.
Wait. Oh, you already hit it. Show
Generating.
advanced. But that's okay.
Which one? Where?
I just said it said show advanced, but that's fine.
It's like how
higher
will keep images closer to the prompt. Okay. So it's going to sit here for a second, and you're going to see the issue with Pixelfy right off the bat. And the thing that I would say is it's not as good as DALL-E at coming up with things like this, right? Like that looks like crap. And I can't use any of that. And I'm like, I can't use these. Like basically what I need is I need DALL-E to make me cool versions of stuff. And then I need Pixelfy, because if you look at this, if I look at this, right, you can't count these because there's weird, but this is exactly 32 pixels tall.
Sure.
And 32 pixels. And there's no BSing this. Everything is filled in with the exact color that it wants to be, right? Like it's not, there's nothing in between. Okay, so what you could do is I figured out you could add a reference image.
Nice.
And so what we could do is I could say in this cozy world builder style, give me a something with just these and use that. Hold on. Use this as your starting image to emulate. And when I do that, I get something like that.
Oh.
Okay, so now we're cooking. Now we're cooking with gas, right? Because what this is this is exactly 32 pixels tall and 32 pixels wide, and each of these is filled in with the exact color that it needs.
And it's like actually pixels.
And it's actually pixels, right? It's not fakey, whatever. And not only that, but it only uses the colors of pixels that I tell it to. It doesn't just throw in little browns there because it thought that would look nice. It doesn't do any of that. Now one bad thing about this that shows we need to use another software.
Oh, geez.
Is if I go to this file info, what size is this?
What the heck? 512 by 512.
It's 512 pixels by 512 pixels. And I was like, what? You need to be 32 pixels by 32 pixels. That's what I told you to be. And what the heck is this going to be like? Not an exact square? Is it going to be slightly off on one side? And I was like, you suck, Pixelfy. I hate you. Why would you give me this in that thing? Okay, it's fine. Because what happens is if I take this down and I shrink it down and I say, make this exactly 32 by 32 pixels, does great. Perfectly lines up exactly.
Do you know why they do it? Here's the guess.
Maybe.
So you can see the damn thing.
Maybe.
If it was 32 by 32, it'd be microscopic on the screen.
Maybe that's true. So then what I could do is I can take this and move this into Sprite because, Photoshop does not degrade, scrunch it down. If I take this into Photoshop and I say it's 512 by 512, take it down to 32 by 32, which is a, division of 512. All it should do is shrink it down. And that one pixel that used to be actually 8 by 8 pixels is now 1 by 1 pixel.
Yeah.
It doesn't keep it the same color. It messes with things. We saw that in last stream. I did that on the last stream.
Yeah.
But Sprite does not do that. It shrinks it down and keeps it exactly the same size, which now this is an 8 by 8, or like this is a actual pixel by pixel version of this. So let me, we'll have to do,
minutes. That's why I did it at the bigger pixel size. Yeah.
So can I look at it in Sprite?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. No, I think that what I'm seeing right now is that we have an in, essentially. We're using AI as a tool to speed run this through. It should be
this one?
It's a 22. Yep. And we can zoom it in. There we go.
So now, So what I did was, you can see that I changed it slightly. So here's my original.
Wait, hold on. You got to take that down because this is on the...
Okay, so here's my original, right?
Okay.
And it was like, it's not perfect. You know, there's this little thing here and there's no pool balls on it anymore. And so what I did was I brought it in, and another thing was I looked at this and I was like, this is, if I take from this black rail up at the top to this bottom line, it's 34 pixels tall. And I was like, can't have that. We need 8x8s, right?
Yeah.
And so what I did was I erased. That's why this one looks a little squatter, because I took 2 lines of pixels out of it.
Yep.
And so I was like, great, now this is 32 tall and 64 wide. Okay. And then I was like, well, it doesn't have any pool balls on it. And this part is a little like, you know, it's not filled in right here and stuff. So I took it the last little 10% or whatever, right, that it needed to be, and put a pool ball here and put this one here and sort of filled this out and made it a little bit shorter. So it's exactly 32 by 64 now. So now it feels like it can be an actual pixel sprite thing that goes into here. And what it made me want to do...
Did you make a bunch of them?
No, well, I didn't go through and actually make them, but what I did was I made a bunch of like here is like, I want the sprite sheet,
so
right?
It's Dolly. Okay.
So it's back to Dolly.
And what did you just open this in? Or what file type was that?
I don't know. Dolly saves it out as like a WebV file or something. Okay, so anyway, so you can see that, like, if I do that exact same thing, what we could do is say, give me a sprite sheet of arcade games. Pick our favorite arcade game, mess with it a little bit in Photoshop, bring it into Pixelfy, which will make it the exact colors that we want, then bring it into A-Sprite, size it down to the size that we want, make our last little adjustments, and save it out for the game. And I was like, I bet we could do a hell of a lot more like sprites and interesting things using it this way than me trying to draw out a pixel sprite of an arcade game.
Well, I think that's the point here is we don't have infinite amount of time.
Yeah.
We have about less than a year now to make this happen. And so as we start to get into this, like, hey, this is a great idea. Let's get an arcade game in this part. Then it might take 3 weeks for you to like meticulously do it if you didn't use this method.
Yeah.
And so now you're like, all right, here's the idea. Here's where we go. Workflow comes in.
Give me a bunch of ideas and stuff like that.
You're still playing with it. You're still doing it on your side.
And they still have to go together, and there still has to be like the storyline of what happens to it. But what I don't have to do is build 100 of all these different little sprites. Can I, let me see. I want to see
one thing here. So
Okay.
This is 8x8 grid because I like to put the grid on there. So if we looked at this, like this tile could be duplicative.
like of the other one. Of
yeah,
the
so like this
inside one.
bottom would have to be duplicate. The corners would be, and then we could make one that's like empty. And so this is how I think about it. It's like, how are the tiles
Right.
from an optimization standpoint?
Totally. And I feel like that's where we go in and we go, oh man, if we could get that, right, we could have this whole, we could have this pool table down to 4 unique sprites, or 4 unique 4x8 or 8x8s. And that's where I feel like is if we could fill out the bar in simple 8x8s of this, then that gives us more space to do a cool stained glass window of beer in the background or something like that on the wall.
So now I gotta put this in a scene, Ryan.
Yeah.
We can't not do something with it you just created. All right, so what I'm gonna do is we're gonna open up my big size background. Oh no, not that one. What? All right. Let's open it up. So I'm going to show you how quickly we should be able. So if you can produce the sprite, this is how we would maybe use it in a different context when we start building the world itself. So let me go to desktop here, and here's our game. think I call this one Sandbox Big. Okay. So now so this is what we just played just a minute ago.
Yep.
So if I were to go here and I'm going to just create a new layer, I'm going to actually turn off these other layers for just a second. I'm going to pop it in there. There it is in the top. It's so small and cute. All right, let's go in there and just see what this looks like. Because I want to see it in scale with our guy.
Yeah. Well, I did a little Photoshop just so I could make sure that it actually seemed.
Oh, so you checked it out?
I checked it before we started.
Okay, so what I should be able to do here, and I'm just trying to think here. If we right click on this layer, can you see that? Okay, you can. So you go new tile map layer, and we'll just call it whatever. I'm just going to hit OK. Oh, why is it not creating a tile map? Let's here. Let me deselect it.
And you can see that our yellow background is like covering it up.
Yeah, there's
like
some
I don't know if
pieces in
that
there.
needs to be like.
So we may have
clear.
to do. We may have to do some cleanup.
I don't know if there's like clear necessarily. Is that?
You just don't have anything, is what you have to do.
Yeah. So is it like it's like a PNG, or I can just tell certain tiles to just be not there, and show the background through?
On this one, yes.
Okay.
But we'd have to. Let's see here. I'm gonna take this 2.
See, because so then that always like I don't understand. So let's say you do erase this. Mm-hmm. Now is this 8x8 tile different than the other one because it has this background element behind it?
It would.
It would be.
But what I'm trying to do here is see if I can't make this, because I have it selected, but I'm going to try something. Okay. So there's our piece. If I right click here and do new tile map layer, 8x8. All right. I don't know. Sure why it's not like, so what it should be doing is creating this into little tiles that I can use on the screen. We don't necessarily need to mess with that right now, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that layer, and let me grab it like this. Am I not on that layer? I'm going to back up. There we go. Oh, I was on the eraser layer. I see what I was doing. Okay. Let's put this guy over here. Yeah, so we'll have to like clean up some of those tiles off to the side, but let's put this one right at the front of our menu right here. That's where our guy's going to
make it so that you're walking behind, or like he's walking behind it.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Okay. So we have to do that in the actual game itself. So I'm going to save this out, and then I have to export it. And export. Yep. We're overriding, and let's check it out in GB Studio. So then we can show you how to walk behind things too. Yeah. I think that would be a cool part of this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to open up Skull Bob's, and we should already see that in the world, because all we're doing is saving over that sprite. So there it is.
There he is.
It's pretty cool. All right, I need to throw this over here though. So what you'll see is there's this little play button, and that's where the character drops into the world. So we don't have to like run through the whole world. So if I were to run this right now, he would run in front of the table, which we should actually do. We should just go and see what this looks like then when he's built out, because I want to see the size scale of what this is. And now let's see here.
It should be the size of his legs, basically.
Because it's what, 30? No,
32.
It's 32 tall?
32 tall.
And our character is, I thought it was 30.
Oh, no. You're right. It's 16 tall.
It's 16 tall.
16
All
tall.
Right. It's going to take a minute to build. Oh, yeah, this looks good. That looks like it actually fits.
Right?
All right, let's see how you put it so he walks behind it.
Yeah.
So if I go over here to the paintbrush tool, this is where I found this tile painting. So we'd have to, and this is where we'd have to play with this, because I don't know if that white, I don't think the white would show. And that should be that he's walking right behind it.
Right.
Because that's what we have to figure out is you can't use the clear or the white, because that will always be in the background. That is like the background color. So let's see how this looks. So we painted those on there. Hey, nice. That looks great. And it actually works pretty good. So, but here's the thing. See that little white
cue
ball? So what we've learned is if it's going to be in the foreground, you can't use that
You
white.
can't use the white.
So now it's limited to 2 colors, three, I
Three.
guess, three
Three.
colors, but that's fine.
Yeah. No, I think that'll be okay.
You can walk behind some, in front of them. All right, I think we have a strategy here on at least a pixel art. So we got some mechanics.
Yeah.
We got the ability to interact and got a HUD. Now we have a pixel creation methodology.
Right.
And then we're just going to have to work on ensuring that it doesn't have as much. Now, one other thing I wanted to show you is if you're in a sprite, let's see if I can get this to do the thing. If I hit, what is it, tab? There is a button that you can press, and it will show you how many unique pixels there are in this map.
Okay.
But I can't remember what I do. Of course, I can't remember it. There is that it? No, that's what is that showing? I hid somehow all the layers, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to turn that on. But what's this? There's some interesting tools. So I'm going to have to learn this. There was a way that you can do it, and it will count the unique tiles that you're seeing in this area. So then that's another aspect of this that allows us to understand, all right, we have 192. How many unique tiles are in this particular world?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I feel like that's going to be the whole thing, right? Is we're going to come up with these amazing ideas and be like, well, you can only have so many in the background. So maybe we don't want a tiled like a background, with the dots around it, because every time it's in the background of something, it makes it a unique 8x8 as opposed to a non-unique 8x8.
So the whole background tiling was just for our scaling of what this would look like. So
but like I could see that you would want, maybe there's like a wallpaper, like section, and it's wallpapered with like a cool thing, but then you had a picture in front of it. You're like, instead of this section being, it's all unique now because it's on top of this textured background.
Are you saying like this?
Yeah. Like, so let's say, and you could have that being, part of it, but maybe just one section of it has that kind of texture.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. Because then it's not messing with any of the other tiles, because I imagine right now it's messing with every single one of these every single one that looks like it should be duplicated isn't duplicated.
Yeah.
Because it has, an extra little piece hanging down because it has that background section.
You're absolutely right. And part of the gridding was just so we could measure, because if you really look at this, between those little sections there are 32 pixels. So then it was a way for me to measure.
Yeah, but it teaches a lesson, right? That if you want to have a background element like that, it's going to end up being a whole bunch of unique tiles because of the tiles that are in front of it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's why old Game Boy games didn't look maybe as the way they should. So or they were like, let's say it was a cavern, you would just use the same 8x8 to do the entire wall, right? Yes,
and nothing was on front of it. Or there could be a torch that had the same sort of tile-y background, but you knew that just those two, that 16x8 was going to be your tile of that, and then you would use that in the same exact positions so that it wasn't always having to be unique.
Go look at this right now without the background. I understand exactly what you're saying. So essentially, we're trying to still save memory there and save how many tiles, and we're just going to use the tiles to generate the background as best as possible. Look how empty it looks.
Well, this was another thing. Once we get into story of this, we'll have to talk about.
All right,
it looks good.
What have we learned so far? Like, everything has been additive that we've had. I haven't found anything too off. I think there could be a lot of time doing your go find the right image, then go over here and build it. Like, there's got to be a few things we're just gonna build, right?
I think you're gonna have to end up doing probably the characters and the other stuff. Like, those are gonna be so precise with like how they animate and everything that I think you're gonna end up building those by hand for the most part. But what I didn't want to do is, like, when you look at these backgrounds of GB Studio, like, games where you're like, here's the RPG where we're in the grocery store, right? And it has a little refrigerator in the back, and then it has like a longer thing, and then it has this little thing. And I was just looking at that and being like, if I have to make we have to make every single one of those from scratch by hand, like this is going to take too long.
It's going to take a year.
And and also like,
oh wait, check this out.
Nice.
Did you see that?
It's like walking up the stairs.
Yeah,
right? Like
they got slopes.
Yeah, nice. Because part of this is like I kind of want to do it with AI to see. I want to use AI as part of it to see like could we just become master pixel artists? Like, I guess. But like my whole thing is not to become a master pixel artist, right? My whole thing is to create a cool thing that we want to show off to everyone. And the way to make it as cool as possible is be able to create more of that art assets faster. Because if I can make them faster, then we can have more and more cool art assets, and we can focus on what makes it super fun and what makes all the levels stick together and what makes it interesting, and not spend our time like making our 17th stool.
100%. So I think that what you're hitting in on is kind of the mantra of thing. The Hangout with Adam and Ryan, a lot of this effort is you're seeing it live right now.
Right.
Like a lot of our decision making, some of these things, we have a bunch of other stuff we're doing in our lives that when we get to this point, we're like, how can we speed line getting this? So if we said, we got this awesome bar, and then this next scene is going to be in a brewery or wherever we're going to do some of these next steps, which we're going to get into soon. How can we speed line it to saying, all right, we know we need this asset, and we can just iterate those out and then punch out some of these things, tweak it out because we have enough design skill to be able to make that happen.
Yeah.
And then we're focused on the story. We're focused on like the cool little missions that we're able to build, and we're just using tools to produce something that's going to be fun as hell to do.
Yeah, like it would be no different. Like to me, it doesn't seem like that different from using Sprite, right? As something that like helps you draw something in a very specific thing. We're sort of helping build all of the art assets so we can make a cooler end product. Which like that's the part that I am excited about, is making a cool, awesome, amazing looking and playing video game. And this is going to help us make that faster and better with only 2 people working on it, sort of on the side.
And so in response to like building the game, what do we learn from last year?
What would you say?
I would say that when we started, we were very open at the beginning. And how long did it take us to start getting some traction on the actual board game itself? I feel like there was like 4 or 5 episodes we were just like opening the idea of where we could go, and we were just getting stuck. And we were like, where is this going to end? What are the kind of parameters that we can work within? So we're not going to be throwing a lot of text up at you on the screen throughout this, but we did want to show you that as you start to think about developing a game, and if you really want to stay on task and you really want to make this thing happen, we wanted to start to put some different structure around this. And so prior to like getting into this too deep, we wanted to set up some sort of like a guidepost. So we say, here's what's in scope, here's what's not in scope. Yep. How are we gonna nail this by December and have a game that comes out so y'all can play it? And you're gonna get iterations of this as we go forward.
Well, I'll be honest, it feels like a video game is a lot more complicated than a board game. Like at least the game that we were making, right? So it just feels like if we're going to end up with something that is cool and just as fun and amazing as we thought the AI board game, it would take multiple years for how long we could do this. So if we don't have something that can like keep us on track and be like, hey, we should be at this milestone by this point, then it just won't end up happening.
So we're just going to expose this little idea, and we're doing this behind the scenes. You won't see too much of this, but we do have structure. So we don't have dates 100% figured out, but what we do have.
Can you like start it a little bit? Do the intro.
All of this and Ryan's very small bladder has to be, taken out here. So what we got is a charter of what the heck we're going to be doing over the next 10 months. 11 months. So this is the Skull Bobs, the return from hiatus. I think I even spelled hiatus wrong, but whatever. This is one of those. No, maybe I did get it right. because my thing's not saying that it's wrong yet. But what this does, it talks about what we're trying to do. We're going to build a playable Metrovania style platformer game. We're using GB Studio. We're going to have our story arc in there. 3 distinct stages. We're going to have a goal of trying to have an hour of full gameplay. It may even take a little bit of more time. So, yeah, it could be. Ryan made that kind of thought. It could be just as complex. And I know that one. How many years did that guy take it? But as we start going through this, we scoped it out. We know what we want to do. We're going to create game assets, sprites, backgrounds, everything as we can. We're going to use the tools that we have at our disposal, AI, Sprite, Photoshop, whatever other things that we can pull it out. We'll be doing the programming, game mechanics, all the other parts of it. We're implementing the Skull Bob story arc. We have a really good one. We're going to jump into that for the last hour of the show today because we really want to build out some levels here. We're going to be working on the debugging. Oh, we got some.
One little drink.
Yeah, one little. one for the last hour of the show. Yeah. So we just kind of have lined out all of the things that we're looking to do. We have project leads in here. We haven't necessarily put any specific names in there, so if you want to volunteer to step up, we said the Twitch crew is going to be helping us out, so game that's designers. You so help us out with this concept and the story as we start going through this. We're shooting. We started in January. We're looking for a December 2024 kind of completion. Mm-hmm. We have some ideas. We want to have some mechanics complete, playable levels. We're going to have some kind of a first playable alpha. Then we really want to get a stable level design with some of the things that we're going to be working towards. And there's a lot of other things that we need to work through. We think we're probably going to get stuck on the programming or something, or some of the asset creation. Sure. We did get stuck, but you found a way.
Yep. At least to start of a way.
And so what we're going to try to do is we're going to have weekly meetings. Ryan and I already do this already, so we're just kind of talking about that. You are going to see us do this live on stream as we work our way through this. And at the end of the time, we will have some sort of a game. So we even are going down to having Gantt charts and work breakdown structures.
Gotta have a Gantt chart. What would a project manager be without their Gantt charts?
So we just wanted to let you know that we're taking it serious, and we're hoping that you also learn along with us. Like, how would you approach this? How would be a more a way to say, hey, we're building a board game, and then every time, or not a board game, but a video game, and we're stepping in here and just doing random stuff every session. So we have some ideas. This isn't all in flex right now. We're not going to flesh this out on the show tonight, but just to let you know that as we start going through this, we should have some kind of cool milestones that we can start to hang our hat on as we go each time through this process.
Did ChatGPT build this Excel spreadsheet?
They did not. I tried to.
Yeah.
I absolutely tried to, and it messed it up. So I ended up went in here and had to do it myself.
Do it your damn self.
So I figured this is like a good idea just to give you an idea. If you're going to build something, it's not all the fun of making pixels or programming mechanics. It's having a plan. It's having some sort of a beginning, middle, and end to get this done as a project so we can stay on task and not get crazy and be like, oh, we should go and build this in a different platform or do this other thing. This is our strategy.
To me, like, I use this with like all sorts of stuff in my life, right? Like, I know I'm going to sit down and I have an hour and a half to work on something. And I go, man, I can spend an hour and a half working on Skull Bobs, right? Or this, or Network Leader or something. But if I just go, yeah, what was I doing? Like, what are we supposed to be doing? And if I spend half an hour figuring out what we're doing and sort of messing around, and then I only and then is it the right direction? But if I go, by February 26th, we have to have level themes done. And then like, here are the level themes that we're going to do and how I outline them out. Then that 90 minutes like is much more productive.
Yeah. So we have a project plan. And I guess the point is that if you're following along with the stream, what we'll do is we're going to flesh this out a little bit more because we need to rearrange some of our milestones and our work breakdown structure as we get through this. Mm-hmm. So plan at the beginning. Really think through what you're trying to create and then put some parameters on it so you can really nail something. So our thought is we needed to take the Skull Bob story. We have a story we want to tell. We really have that. I think we've defined GB Studio as the platform. We designed that we're going to go with Skull Bobs. We know there's going to be 3 major stages, and we're going to get through that in just a little bit. So in our research on how the hell this works out, I found some cool insights. And so Ryan and I had been sharing some back and forth of like, hey, check out this thing on Itch. Here's a cool game. Or here's a way that someone else approached building this kind of thing. Here's some cool assets. And so I sent this link to Ryan, and it was in regard to like how someone else approached something. And so let's take a quick rundown, and I want to hear your perspective, Ryan, of what you saw in this as we had went through this. There were some other folks that did something similar to what we're trying to do right now.
Hey, people make Metroidvania games, right? And one of the best ones I've played, I probably played through 3/4 of Hollow Knight. Right, you know. Their second game has been in production for like 4 or 5 years. It is super anticipated. I think they think it's going to come out this year. Anyway, Hollow Knight is an amazing Metroidvania game. And this article basically sits down with the main creators of it and shows off some like early concept art, how they built it out, and just kind of gets their, if somebody was going to make a Metroidvania type game, what are kind of the steps that would go through it? And Adam sent me this, and I was like, sure, okay, I can read this. And I was sitting at like a kid's swim practice, and I was like, okay, I'm reading through it. And on my phone, I was feeling so inspired. I was like copying and pasting parts of it into a Trello board to be like, this is a great roadmap for how you build games like this, right? And so I basically just went through, like, I thought these were so fun, like their early prototypes of how the maps laid out and everything. I think that is so cool. Like that idea of like, okay, it's going to start up here and then it's going to go down, and them being like, this is super early, but you could tell like it kind of made a lot of it into the game. Like we still start up here at the top and it's a big open area, and then you go down into these pits or whatever. And, some of the game like characters, like him over here, I love it. It's like like that. It even says number 1. Does that even say number 1 next to him? Like that's what we want. And then 2 is like the swipe, right? Because he's swinging his sword. It's very melee based and everything. So Hollow Knight, great game. They talk about it in a very specific way of how they were thinking about it. And I would like to have a conversation with you all and with Adam about like, how they're thinking about it, how ours would be similar, and what parts would be similar and what parts would be different. And like, I think it's fun to, how come
I don't know why
when you click on those,
I don't know why
like it says expand, but it doesn't do that. It just opens the same thing in another tab. But yeah, like, I love the idea of them like labeling each one so that you'd be like, this is area 1, room 1, or area 2, room 2. I think that's really cool to like kind of know in your head where everything is.
Then start putting the levels together and see how the scope of this grows. And so the point I think that we're trying to get to is that if we were just here open a GB studio every single time and trying to build a game, I think that could go disastrously. Yeah. So it's absolutely going in and touching like paper with pencils and pens. It's actually thinking outside of the technical ones and zeros and all the coding, and starting to think about it from a very like honest and outside of the technology kind of perspective. Right. And so that's what we wanted to start doing. I think as going tonight was one of those things. So you saw a guy ran through the level. Great. We got a guy that can shoot a gun. He can blink. Thank you, Mike Azul, for that one. I think that was awesome. To be honest, I love that guy. He's gonna make it in the thing. At least that head. That's a perfect
somewhere.
Head. The little feet. We'll figure out how he comes in there. But what we'd like to do is start thinking about the story and start talking through some of the perspectives. So we started Skull Bob's 15 years ago now. 15 years ago, Skull Bob's story. So this has been part of our DNA. It's been dormant for a while. We hiatus to this thing. And I've been very specific from the day that we said this, like, this is a hiatus.
It's not canceled.
We never canceled it. We're back, baby. This is like, it feels good. I'm like, I've been wanting to get back to this for years, and it feels like it's the right moment.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah. No, and like you said before, like it started as a video game, and it changed into. I know, right? It's true. Don't remind me. Right?
Yeah.
But it changed from a video game to a like web series, an animated web series, just because the technology was not there for us to easily make a video game. And so now I think like coming back full circle, and we have kind of an episode 0, which like we could put in the notes and everything, but if you've seen it before, like it's on YouTube, it's ready to watch. It is the background sort of information, and I feel like we did it at the time, like that was it was great because now like we had sort of the preset of the story, but we could kind of take the story in different directions based on if it was a show or if it was a video game. And now that it's a video game and we still have that original intro like episode 0, I think it's interesting to think like if it's a video game and you need to fight a bunch of enemies and you need to do this type of stuff and you need to have a bad guy at the end, a boss that you fight and all of that, and you're kind of in the same world, what does now the story look like, and how does that lend itself to a cool little 3-level Metroidvania?
In thinking back to your point, is like we had 6 episodes planned out. It was episode 0 and then 1 through 6, and I would say that maybe 1, 2 and 3ish were more fleshed out, and then we kind of went off this whole other path. Like we had characters. There was like 3 or 4 characters in it. Like main guy Roby. We'll let you know. Roby is the main character of the story. There was Robert Decker is
the grandfather.
He had a girlfriend that was pregnant
girlfriend D,
the archaeologist. Like these are all these things that we already have the characters. So now we get to like continue going with it. But I like your point that the story arc that we did in the series may not match quite like what the game is, but I want to tell a story with this. This is not a run and gun as much as it is there is story here. Yeah. We want to tell something. And then, yes, you get to go and shoot some things. Yes, you may be able to go and find some things, but let's start figuring this out, right?
Yeah. And I think the nice thing again about making a Game Boy game is it can't be overly complicated.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have
We're limited.
Like, you're pretty limited of what words you can write on the screen, what space you have, all of that stuff. So we're going to try to tell the story that we want to tell in the confines of GB Studio.
So if you remember, we started with a mural board. There was did we do this virtual? I think we did it virtual the first time because we're not in there. So Ryan put some extra cards in here, and I appreciate the extra work. So if you start looking through it, it gives us like guideposts, where we can go. This is where we're going to help build more out of that charter and work breakdown structure, so we know where we're headed. Got some art in there.
Yep. I had, here's episode 0, and I was thinking like, oh, if you could, make it into a pixelated stuff. This is where we were just trying a bunch of different. What does this look like? What is if I take this and make it in like in Pixelfy? Does that work? All of this stuff. It's like the testing things out, right? Music and sound effects. What do we think we're gonna need? So then I started to like, what does just a very basic overview layout of the worlds look like? And so I don't know. Do you want me to go over the story that we were thinking of, like at this point?
So I think let's ask the chat. So chat, you are going to probably be knowing the story of this. I think you.
Oh yeah. I think we have to spoil the story, right? If you're in on this, like you're in on the development of this game, you have to know what the story is so people can comment and people can do that. Like it's just going to be spoiled for you.
And if so, the folks that are with us through this, through a majority of the way, you're going to be part of this game. Your names are going to be there. Yeah. Twitch chat. This is all about us hanging out, making this story together. We need to give you some background and give you some insights of what we came up with. So Ryan and I have had this kind of concept, and we met just this last Thursday. We talked about this. Ryan helped like map some of these pieces out, and now we're to the point where we wanted to say, what's our first stab at building some of these layers? So Ryan, walk us through where we think we're at.
So for those who don't know, what happens in episode 0 is the grandfather, Robert Decker, is sort of an explorer adventurer. and he is climbing some super remote mountain, and he's lost in a storm, and he finds a cave, and within the cave he finds Skull Bob, and Skull Bob is like a skull with a big single eyeball that has like a jewel in the eyeball. And what that does is like he goes and touches it.
Do you want to? Should we show it?
Sure. We could just do it as we were talking because there's no dialogue in it.
Yeah, that's good. All right, you're gonna get to watch
14 years because it's a copyright 2010.
So it's 13 years ago, and we took us 2 years to get to this this point,
sure.
right?
Yeah, I can see that. And so he's out there, and this is like the grandfather basically. And what happens is he ends up with this skull, and what we had is that he turned that into like basically a tavern or a brewery kind of like thing that the skull helped him do this.
Well, let's go through this. And like, so
Sure.
as we had the initial thoughts, we were like, had this as a video game character.
Yeah.
And we had assets and storyline, and as we started animating and looking at it, of course, we were like, we found all the constraints. We didn't have GB Studios. It was really difficult.
This is animated in Flash, right?
We made like years of work to even get to this point, to look like this and put it on video and all the effects. And so this was our full send effort to get something going because we were really excited about it at the time, and I'm still excited about it. Yeah. I think this was an awesome time in our development. So the whole thing is, this guy's a crazy explorer. He's out there trying these neat things. No one's ever got to the top of this mountain, but he's at the end. He's about to die.
Right. Yeah. Like this is, he's there out by himself. He's trying to do this, and it's kind of, gone. And then, the one salvation is perhaps this cave,
which he finds with a very what is it? Green
it's got
glow
a green
to
glow,
it.
Subtle green glow to it.
Just needs to make a few more steps, and he's gotten into the cave, and he's made it. I always thought there should be like a little wisp of like snow right there.
There should be, yeah, like you're coming into a cave from the outside.
But then the journey in, and I love the like, if you can notice on the sides there's something like inscribed.
Like the background, right, is kind of, like not a normal cave.
Struggling. He's almost done. He's like blue under the eyes. He's frigid. Oh my God, what's this skull? Oh, don't touch it.
And like so it's supposed to be like flashes of things, and they had the beer
because he's thinking about it. He's
like this is like him being him imparting some of what he likes, right, and into.
I always love this part because we had the reflection. I was like, man, in Flash,
right,
good one.
Totally.
On this, like being able to like figure out how to make this work. Like, wow, you helped save me. Look at that. That's quality right there.
Love that.
Come on now.
I feel like that looks too much like he's looking into camera, like he needed to look off of camera, but see, like now it's fine, right? And so now he's hiking out, he's back.
This is the money shot. Like we have
this is the money shot.
Posters.
I literally have a poster of this. But then it wasn't a cave. It was a crashed alien spaceship.
Oh, no. What's the story behind that? There's a skull in this spaceship?
There's a skull in
Crazy.
a spaceship.
Man, why didn't anybody ever find this thing?
And then it's like, and I love, so he's like, huh? What? Ah, well.
I love the shrug.
The shrug.
So if you can imagine this part, he gets out to the top of the mountain. He sets up his little camera. He's going to take a picture. He made the thing, and snippety snap, he's got a picture.
Nice.
Now, flash forward to episode 1. That picture's hanging in the bar.
Hanging in the bar, right? And so what it is like that is the grandfather, but we're telling the grandson's story. So that's Robert Decker. And so, Roby is the grandson, and oh yeah, we'll copy that and put that in the for anyone who wants that guy.
So that's our north. That's the start.
That's the start, and I feel like that's a good lore behind it, and then we can sort of take it outside of that. So should we talk about this
now? Let's
this
get
version?
into the story. This is where we need your help, y'all.
Okay, so the idea is like you come in and you're the grandson, and Robert Decker, and probably whoever Robert Deckard's son is, right, or Roby's dad, has turned this Skull Bob's, like his adventure, his status as, this person, the grandfather is this person, comes back in and uses this skull and sort of uses it as like a marketing gimmick, right? To like do his bar that he does. And so he has this tavern, and it's become like this really popular beer that they brew at this Skull Bob's Tavern, that has been there since, the 1920s or whatever, when the grandfather was doing it. And they brewed all this beer, and they're super, like it's a popular brand of beer, basically Skull Bob's beer. And Roby is sort of the slacker grandson who's doesn't really know what he's doing with his life. Knows he's been like, born into this like society of this thing that he's just,
he's taking the family business.
He's taking the family business, but he doesn't know if he wants to do it or not. Right. And so he's sort of like, I like the idea of him like sleeping in the back of the tavern, like doesn't even really have his own place. Doesn't even, like is sort of the screw up, and runs the bar, runs the tavern that the original dad came in. But it's almost like, I almost think about it as he's like, he runs the crappy tourist trap bar that is now like the home of Skull Bob's, and Skull Bob's is like Coors, Light or something like that, right? It's everywhere. It's Coors, it's what is the one from New England that is the very old
Samuel Adams?
No, the dang it. No, it's on the top of my head, on the top of my tongue, but I can't think about it. Yingling. So like Yingling is a bar from or is a brewery from out north. It didn't really spread too far, but it's like really popular and really amazing and really old. That's what I think of. Yingling is sort of Skull Bob's, right? And so he's running this, and the idea was that we still wanted the alien archaeologist as part of this. So I don't know. Do you want to show?
So one thing I was going to say is that we didn't mention is, so when he touches the skull, it kind of re-energizes him.
Yeah.
And so one of the things about the skull is it's not just a skull, and there's this weird green thing that's shoved in at this like weird Cyclops kind of thing. And the original concept we were toying with is that there's something different about the skull, and that the beer was so successful because it actually was doing something inside of the brewery, right, or some sort of component that actually like re-energized the beer or made it really delicious or made it like get very popular.
Yeah.
But the lore, and that was never passed on to Roby because he just didn't get it.
Yeah.
And so now this skull, where the hell is it, number one?
Right.
And why is it part of any of this story? So I think we should look at this thing, because I think it would be great to see the commercial that we started with for this. If you want to take a look at this.
I don't know if this is, so this is the minute I would rather do the 01 like animatic that we did, but like we could do this one. This is more just like a one-off little funny, like whatever.
Skull Bob's. Skull Bob's.
Oh, this is Adam.
Come on down to Skull Bob's. Deliciously mediocre home-brewed beer that tastes exceptionally cold. And don't forget to stop in for Ladies Night, where we promise this time there will be ladies. Plus, now health code compliant. All right, so the new commercial's been running a few weeks. What'd you think, Skull Bob? Yeah, I know it's pretty terrible, but you really can't argue with the results. Look at the place. It's packed. You're damn right, Roby. You're like a bona fide marketing guru.
This is...
Hey, did you see Skull Bob in the back on the...
Yeah.
There's that pool table you were making.
Well, we're not exactly booming, but at least we got it on the cheap. Let's see how much my cousin charged me for this piece of crap.
that was our commercial. He's lost his mind. That's what Michael said in the chat. It's true.
So, okay, that was a commercial. Do we have the animatic we can get to? We could probably find that, right?
Episode 1 animatic.
All right. So we'll watch. I mean, you got to get the history
right.
if you're going to help us.
Yeah,
with
this is the history. You're getting the 3 pieces of media that exist for Skull Bobs.
There was a bunch of other crap that we just never got actually on camera is the thing too. So, all right, let's get this.
There was a bunch of like concept art and things like that, I think, that got in.
The worst part is like I spent so much time on building this. All right. Oh crap. Hold on.
Hey, don't preach to me about spending a bunch of time
We
on
both
fucking
did.
Skull Bobs.
Oh, I mean, the thing is to make the camera angles and flash at that time was such a pain in the ass. And so, all right. So this is the animatic episode 1, and you'll notice that like we even had like safe areas and everything. All right.
Yep. And this needs to be cut
He
together.
was a famed explorer.
Oh, this is me.
Yeah.
Me doing the thing.
Expert mountaineer.
Yeah, this
A
needs like
world-renowned adventurer.
sped up quite a bit, like the
For
cuts
sure.
need, you
But
know,
after
done.
the most famous climb of his career, up the south face of Mount Pumari, he gave it all up. Moved back to Colorado and opened up this bar, Skull Bob's, where he brewed the world-famous Skull Bob Stout, but never climbed again. I can only guess, since he never
See
talked
Time
to me about
magazine?
anything from his past.
Dude, I
But I
did.
bet Dolph-
Wait a second. Wait a second. Do you see when he died? 1989, baby. When did the Game Boy come out?
Nice.
Oh, my
man.
God.
It's serendipitous.
It's
Talked
like-
to me about anything from his past. But I bet dollars to pretzels it was because of that skull he discovered. He was obsessed with it for some reason.
So this is an
Wouldn't let
animatic.
anyone study it or even touch it. People claimed it was a marketing ploy to hype the bar, but the bar didn't need hype back then. He won 5 International Brewmaster Awards with Skull Bob Stout. It dethroned a 300-year-old Irish brewery.
Here's our alien archaeologist.
Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately that's not the award winner. It does have an interesting flavor. Not like the fermented spirits from my home, but I'll have another. Yeah, I know it's bad. I feel like I've hired and fired every brewmaster in the city since Granddad left me this bar in his will. He always claimed he'd let me in on the secret when I was ready, but it's a little late for that. I gave up trying to recreate it myself years ago.
And this was like, looking back on this, I'm like, oh, it's way too much tell and not enough show, right?
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
It's very like narrative monologue driven with little like jokes in between. And then on fire, I always like
did
that
eventually
gag.
grow eyebrows again.
I bet you like eyebrows.
I eventually
Anyway,
did
sure
grow
is nice
eyebrows
to get this
again.
Brewery back on top like it was in Robert's day, all packed with drunkenness. If you could see it now, on the verge of closing, he'd likely come back as some kind of adventurer zombie and kill me.
Same stick.
Why did that come on? That's
But
interesting.
what did he expect? I have to have that recipe. Ah, he was a great hero then. But his artifact archaeology was all very amateurish. He didn't even get a spectra analysis done on the skull. Right. Right. What kind of work did you say you do again? I collect artifacts.
It's like it has
you don't
the
know?
cross on his wrist where the bone would be to animate it.
Where the skull is? Well, there's an old display case downstairs. If you want, I could drag it out, if it's even still in there.
Nice.
It's definitely close by.
Fits the story.
Right?
Doesn't your equipment give you a proper location readout? That's a cash register.
I didn't even have the cash register drawn.
Ah, of course.
So it's like he's trying to pass it off that he's, just a normal person.
Breaking news from Channel 2.
Like pours it out.
This just in. There's been multiple sightings of strange lights in the sky over McCoy Avenue and in parts of Jefferson County. Residents say the lights have been hovering over homes and businesses in the area. Holy shit. That's where my girlfriend and I live. Normally Dee can take care of herself, but in her condition, she's fine. Probably just a weather balloon. Even more peculiar are the reports of electronic equipment and phone lines malfunctioning.
This is good history.
Stay tuned to Channel 5 News for more coverage on the sightings. Damn it, she's not answering her phone. Sorry, buddy, I hate to do this because you're like, well, the first customer I've had tonight. But I have to shut the bar down for a while. If you come back tomorrow, we can talk about the skull. Count on it.
the ladies from because I didn't want to draw that twice.
Yeah.
I did like that bar sign.
Yeah.
Open and close with like the happy drinking Skull Bob and then the sad empty.
You did great.
He goes in front of the tree.
Man, this
animatic.
Such a
He's got my bag. I used to have that exact shoulder bag.
So this is really good history, and I'm glad we did all of this because it was really important to see how we can take this
right
and make sure we integrate it.
Yeah. So he's whistling, walking through the woods. He's got his little Leela from Futurama wrist or
I love his little wig.
I found it. So that was him, the reveal then is he is an alien, right? Dude, Michael says the alien archaeologist looks a bit like Sheldon from The Big Bang with a baby had a baby with ET. Literally, we had some people do record audio or voice over for it, and I was like, he should sound like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. That's how he should sound, is not socially but really smart, but then just doesn't understand how things work. That's would be an alien nerd, right? Would be.
Hell yeah.
So good call.
I mean, there we go. That. So what you saw was as much was created. Ryan, that animatic was a lot of Ryan getting those last pieces in there. We had I think that was the point where we're like, holy crap. I think we were having kids at that point.
We were totally having kids at that point. And it became oh my God, we did that first episode. And now imagine animating this entire episode and then more after that. It was just overwhelming.
It was too much.
Yeah.
At the time but I'm ready to attack that. So now let's just iterate what we saw. So we have the backstory of Dropper Decker finding the skull.
Right.
Regenerative energy. There's something with the skull. Second up, the bar's not doing well. Yeah. And there's clearly he can't figure out how the recipe worked.
Yeah.
It was held away from him from the grandfather because it just never got passed on. We never really said why Robert Deckard had, didn't pass it on.
Right.
And so it probably just was working on the fact that, hey, it was really popular, and then the beer just went bad and it just ended up being crappy. Roby didn't seem as much of a reject other than just being man, I can't figure out the recipe.
It out, right?
And then you get to the point of that story where there's something going on that, hey, they found it, they're looking for the skull.
Right, aliens or
it's been something that makes a big story. That is a awesome backstory for us to start from. So if you imagine the years of work that went to just to make that much, I think we have so now I think we pick up generally around that point where the alien is in the bar.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
So if you imagine all that coming in, so Ryan's going to now take you through where we're at.
So this is kind of what we thought would be sort of like where you would start, right? You're kind of starting in the bar. Maybe it's in the back room where he wakes up or something. Like most of that isn't kind of final or even, thought out very well. But the idea that you like start out in sort of a hub area, I feel like is a big thing with Metroidvania games, is kind of like you're learning about the story, you're learning the mechanics. And this is where I was like, is the bar the RPG view, right? Because if we're, we could talk about that,
yeah,
like
sure.
which parts we're doing in RPG view versus which parts we're doing as side scrolling. And so I was like, let's say he wakes up in the bar, right? And he sort of comes through and you're learning how to jump and to move, or you're learning things about it. You're going through the storage and then the back room, and then you actually end up in the bar. And this is where I thought like, instead of explaining all of this through things, that it would just be sort of pictures you would find on the wall and click on, or people that you would talk to, and they would sort of explain to you. One thing that I was thinking from this side is that like the difference between the animated one is that like the bar is run down and bad, right? And he can't figure it out. In this version, I thought it could be really popular, but he hasn't figured out his place in it. And the reason that I thought it could be big and popular is because one of them could be a gigantic area of where you're brewing thousands of cases of this beer all the time. Whereas if the bar is just a rundown bar, like what are you running and jumping around inside of, right? You're not brewing that much beer. You're doing it in a tiny little back room. Whereas if it was really popular, you would have a giant brewery that you could be running around in. So that was sort of my thought.
So I like that thought. And as I thought about it, because remember in the episode where he's like, no, don't look at this, and the grandfather, like, what if he was so secretive that he built this ridiculously crazy huge brewery under the bar, unbeknownst to anyone else?
No, that's true. Like you could, well, yeah, I mean, I guess you're going to have to suspend disbelief for any of this, right?
Yeah.
But like the idea that like he was down there and it's like this super extensive basement or something, right?
Well, the reason why it would be extensive is that he realized that, hey, this skull has this regenerative properties, but when you use it so much, it like spoils something, and you had to like keep building onto it. So he kept like, how do I contain this power without it doing this thing? So he figured out like I can hide it by keeping it under here.
Well, and Mike says the same thing, like not just the brew, but the canning and the bottling facilities and all of that stuff. And that's where I thought like this, and maybe this is below the basement or sub basement or something like that. I just sort of put it in the background here, but that would be sort of the big second area, right? Is you could have not only here's the bottling part, and then you go up further and it's like where, it's actually shipped out. And then up here is like the brewing section of it. And we'll talk about like what that is. But so here's what I was thinking, like, this is where you would learn a bunch of backstory about what is happening. Like we would explain that through little snippets, little, things happening like, oh, Roby, love all the beer. God, love you, or something. Right. And this is where you meet that archaeologist and you actually start the adventure. And he's telling you things like, hey, I want to see it, or I want to pay you for it, or, I'm doing an article, like whatever he ends up telling him about it. And then I thought it would be neat if like, so you have the bar, right? And then you have the attic, and then you have the basement, and you can, with whatever, possessions you have right now, you can make it into all of these areas. But there's sort of story going on and reasons for you to keep going up to the attic and then back down to the basement, right? And then maybe back up to the attic, and because you're trying to get to the brewery at some point. So you're either, you're finding keys, or you're doing something, or you're learning things. There's like puzzle elements to this section, to where not only are you like puzzling and you're trying to figure things out and you're trying to find things and you're exploring, but you're also learning about the story of what you're doing here, and hopefully then progressing then to the brewery. So maybe my idea was maybe you have no weapon here.
Right.
And then you end up finding a melee weapon, and the melee weapon allows you to break through and get to the brewery. And so now you're in the brewery, and maybe the brewery is more I was trying to find just pictures of,
Yeah, sure,
of
I got you.
side-scrolling stuff, but like maybe the brewery is now the side-scrolling where there's actually enemies. And the idea was that you're meeting the archaeologist, and he's basically telling you, hey, there's like aliens, there's someone coming for this skull, and like they're gonna stop at nothing to be getting this skull, right? And I'm here to help you. Like I heard about it too. I made the sensor thing, and I'm thinking like they're coming to kill you basically and take this skull. And so you need to go and find it. Where the hell is that thing? And so that's where you're going into the brewery to find it, because you knew the grandfather was super secretive about it. It has something to do with that. You think that it's in there.
I love the comment in the chat. First one coming out for the game. The keys could be flashback memories when touching a piece of the skull.
Totally. I love that idea.
The archaeologist, he's talking about the skull, and so Roby's like, why is he looking at this? Maybe he looks at it a little different, and he like turns it up. It's like, oh, why is there a little inscription on it or something? Right. And then like that inscription helps him like, wait a second, I remember that number. It was in the attic. Like, wasn't it somewhere up there?
And then you got to go up to the attic, and you got to explore, and you got to click on things. You're like, oh, is it here? No, that's just a picture of Roby and his grandfather, like at the original opening or something. Like all storytelling elements that are in there.
I just realized how much story and like reading in little details we're gonna have to put in this. I love that, to be honest, because I don't want it to be so just run and gun.
Yeah.
And so Game Boy games are gonna have to be reading. There's no like it's saying things, so you're gonna have to do a little reading in this.
But I think it could also just be like pictures of things, right? Or people, and you're talking to one of the bar patrons,
right?
When you're in the bar here, and he goes like, oh man, I have loved this place since 1942 when it opened or whatever, right? And he's the old guy and he's drinking, and you're like, oh, it's been around for a long time. It's been super popular for a long. Like that's how you learn all those things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Without it having to be like, here's a picture of him and here's an opening in 1932, which is what I was doing in those animatics. And so this is where I thought, like, up and down, you're going up and down, you're moving in different rooms, you're learning about all the story and stuff. And then you get your first melee weapon, which brings you into the Skull Bob's brewery. And just like Mike Azul was saying, like, it has different cool parts, bottling, shipping, all of these are different interesting stuff. And the guys that you're fighting are like the low level aliens maybe that are coming to
how did they get there?
You. Right. Like, I think what it is like, here's how I thought about it. Like, they're simple ones. They're like little alien that crawl across the ground and just like search for things, right? They're kind of like the reconnaissance, like robots or drones or things like that.
So I have an idea here. So let me throw this. So we talked about how Robert Deckert was trying to hide something.
Mm-hmm.
So what if those enemies are what, like they're mindless, but he realized, oh crap, like it's this like goo that gets like produced because of the beer process. And so you're fighting these like weird mindless, like, so it's not the aliens yet. Right. It's more of like
something,
the output of years of trying to create this awesome brewery. Like what Robert Deckert was saying was like, I can make this awesome like beer, but the output of it or the waste product is something that was really bad. And so he kept locking layers down. And so as you get to the very bottom layer, you're getting to the other clue you needed to get.
Yeah. So here's where I think, like, storyline aside, I feel like we need, no enemies,
right?
Like storyline, how to solve puzzles, do stuff, right?
Got it.
First part of Skull Bob's brewery, low level, simple enemies that can be meleeed, attacked, killed. And you're doing more jumping around and sort of platforming, like at this point, maybe.
And some story,
and story. And of course, like story stuff. Okay. So then you get all the way up to the top or the bottom or whatever, like the end of the level. And you're like, we found we're you know, the archaeologists being like, it's this way, you got to go this way, like, you know, I'm seeing it, it's like coming up on my radar thing or something, and you finally find it. And my thought was that like all of this like brewery section, you end up finding out is all just bullshit. Like it is all just pretendy brewing, and the actual thing that brews all of the beer is just like literally pouring like tap water or something like that over and into a cylinder with the skull floating in it, and then whatever comes out is the beer that everyone wants. So it's like coming from the alien, you know, skull that the grandfather found, and that's the beer that everyone loves. Sort of, if anyone has seen the Futurama episode with Slurm.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Slurm is a soda that is super addictive that people drink in Futurama. And they find out that, like, it's not actually brewed or anything. It, like, comes out of the butt of an alien. And that is what the entire Slurm is made of. And that's kind of what I was thinking in this.
Sure.
That, like, it's coming from Skull Bob, basically. And they're like, great, that's it. Grab that thing. And so you bust it out of its container. I love the idea of strapping it onto your back and being like, I got it. We got to get the hell out of here. But the thing giving you some sort of powers that are now, instead of just melee, are now shooting powers in some kind of way, right? And so then you either fight your way back through this entire section with now a badass weapon, where before it was a pain in the butt to kill those lower level enemies, but now it's a cinch, right? Because and so it makes you feel powerful, and you're like, hell yeah, I got this. Like, I got this thing. Then at that point, I feel like, so I don't know what happens. You got to go back to the bar. Something happens where now that you have the ability to do this, you get access to the loft above.
Okay, so I love the idea of everything you described, and I think what's kind of interesting is that if we have the skull that he always thought was the actual skull, like it's a fake.
Yeah, like that one's the fake.
That's the fake.
Like the one that is the tourist trap, like in the thing, and the alien just goes like, that's not real. Like, we need to find the real one.
What's the one?
Yeah, this is, you know, like him being like, hey, yeah, do you want to check out the skull? It's right here. And him being like, absolutely not.
So maybe that's the why you go back to the bar is you're like, I gotta compare these things, and then you figure something out where you're like checking it out.
Yeah, and I like the idea of like wanting to know about what the hell was this grandfather doing. You know, like before you just sort of thought, he was an adventurer. He found a weird thing. He used that as a marketing device to do the bar, right? And make it popular. But now you're realizing like the skull was this freaking alien craziness that allows you to like get these powers. And the grandfather was just using it to brew beer because he was like liked that, you know? And so now we got to learn about what is happening. Like we got to know what the hell this grandfather knew about it. And so I like the idea of like above the actual tavern was the law. Like, so it's almost like you're doing this entire game in one building. You know,
right.
It's like there's the manufacturing of the brewery, there's the tavern, and then there's the grandfather's loft above it. And I feel like that could be what is probably just this as well. Like maybe it's this RPG style at first, and then it's, you know, the platforming or something like that. But I feel like maybe it's not even that, because you have all the weapons now. And so my idea was that you would be fighting now higher level enemies because, like, you know, because you've released it, the archaeologist is like, everybody knows now they're coming for this. Like, you know,
because he like shielded it because it was in whatever solution.
It was in the thing.
And then once you took it out, it was like,
now it's just this beacon. Everybody's coming.
I see like breaking the thing, and then that way cut scene, and like pops up on some like alien
like Earth
thing.
here and like a beam shooting out of Earth now, like,
yeah.
like, and it's like, oh my God, everybody in the whole galactic neighborhood knows that this super powerful thing is down here now. And so you're now fighting through the loft and learning more about grandfather, what he was doing, his research. You're finding like diaries and journals of his, seeing pictures and all of this, and also fighting meaner guys and destroying the loft. I feel like you got to destroy the thing that, I want stuff blowing, if we could do that, stuff blowing up and getting torn up and everything. Okay, so finally you fight through the loft, you're fighting through harder guys, and you end in the front of the tavern with like the whole facade of the front. Like, I feel like that could be a whole cool moment. And you're in the street out in front of it. You're powered up by this stuff. You sort of understand what the grandfather was doing. You're like, I know my purpose now. It is to like save this skull and not let these alien Fs like get it, right? And you're like, awesome. I'm going to fight the big bad. And this is where we have our big boss fight at the end. Whatever that big alien, thing that is coming to get you and steal the skull is, he's there with his hulking whatever. And I got to shoot him and jump around these different platforms and get all this stuff and do it. And great. We kill him in front of the tavern, with like, we save the bar and save the skull and do that. And then I always like the idea that is when the archaeologist alien totally betrays you and steals the skull and hightails it out of there.
Cliffhanger.
Right. Yeah.
So should we talk about the skull itself at all at this point in general and for the storyline? Because like the skull itself regenerates.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the things that we always thought was that the skull itself it's regenerating, it creates all this power. And why did that like spaceship crash on an Earth planet and now it has a skull in it? Is that the skull is still alive.
Right.
Like the idea is that green little eye in it is actually like it was by design that you would send these skulls out to these planets. It would like crash on there, and then it would trigger a sequence where it would regenerate the alien around said skull, and it would come back to life, and they would populate and it essentially create like life on that planet.
Yeah.
That was and that's why it has all these crazy powers and things. That's why everyone wants to use it.
Yeah.
Because they know that it has so much power in it.
Right. Like you could live forever if you were holding it or something, right? Like they don't know necessarily. I think it's like super ancient, right? Like maybe this is the last one or something.
So I love that storyline and like where we're at. I think everything we just described is generally in the story arcs that we were talking. I mean, we went deeper into details here. Like we probably skipped over some of that if we would have done the series. I love it. I think we nailed a lot of those major pieces of the story.
And what I'm hoping is that what we can do like at this point is basically to have, you're going to have this section. So you're going to have the tavern section. You're going to have the brewery section, the abandoned loft, and then the final boss fight in front of something. And so what I would think that you would do now is you would start doing what I was doing here a little bit of being like, okay, what style is this? Is it an RPG or is it the side scroller one? Where do you start, right? And then how do you teach people, like, here's what you're doing? Like, so maybe this isn't jump and move if it's the RPG style, right? Because you're just running around. Mm-hmm. So then, like, you're learning more about the backstory and you're sort of seeing the world come to life here. And then at some point you need to meet him and then just start exploring. And that's where like the tavern and the attic and the basement are just like, you knowing that there's going to be puzzles, there's going to be things like this. You're going to need to explore. You're going to need to backtrack. And I also like the idea of these sort of butting up against each other. So if I find the side room that's hidden in the brewery, I can get to the attic from the brewery.
Ooh, I like
right?
that.
Or like if I find a spot now that I have the shooting from the skull, I can get into straight from the tavern from this edge down here. So it's sort of like you could travel all the way back through all this shit, or you could, if you were, searching around and finding those extra rooms or those extra things, or maybe you read everything and it told you about the room at the end of the bar and that there was like a false brick at the bottom and you shot that. Now you can get straight into the abandoned loft from that area or whatever. Like, so you're sort of, we talked about this from the Hollow, or like I read this in the Hollow Knight version, is they were saying like, it's interesting because everyone is going to see the full map. Like that is what a Metroidvania is you finding the map and finding those little extra rooms that is there somewhere. You just got to be able to figure out how to get up to it. And if certain sections connect with other sections, that is super satisfying as a gamer. And also not only as a person playing the game, but also just like now I can sort of quick move from one section to another as opposed to going through this whole section.
Yeah, I think that's going to be core. And because that's the whole idea, is that you get to a point and you're like, hey, there's this little like part or this door or there's something here and it's locked or whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, whatever. Obviously that might be something later on. And then you go and you do all this other crazy stuff. And then when you get to that really hard level and you get to that point and you're like, oh, wait, now I unlock it from this door. Now you're like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
That goes right into the room.
Totally.
Like, and I think you have to hint at it early and then go from that point.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to call out Michael Zool talked about something in the chat, and so maybe we have to get into it. I'm trying to understand the concept here, but like a big bad from the player's viewpoint. So I'm gonna dive into what that looks like because I got to understand exactly what that means because it doesn't make sense yet to me. But it sounds like there's something that's kind of like following the player or something that's happening that might kind of overshadow some of these next steps as we get to that. Like something's tracking him just behind his heels and always like right there. And you finally get to that point where...
Well, and there's parts of this story too that like I will need to know, from a technical perspective of yours, like is the archaeologist friend following him the entire time? Is that a thing that we can do in a Game Boy game, is have another character, like a non-playable character, just be constantly sort of behind you, jumping and doing stuff with you? Or is it like he's just popping up at certain areas? Like you're down here and then you go up into the attic and he just happens to be up in the attic, like as if he followed you there?
So I like this, and this is probably where, as we start to build that work breakdown structure, one glaring omission that I thought of as we started having this is like literally a script,
right?
Like we need to know what's the true story. But honestly, that was what tonight was about.
Yeah.
Let's talk through that. And I think what you just described is probably the best arc we can get. It follows with original kind of lore, if you will.
It goes with the lore, and it highlights 3 different places and an end boss like place, which I think is neat because that having one place where you fight the end boss, I like that because it like rewards you with a new area for the end boss. But what this doesn't do is talk about the specifics of any of these things, right? So I feel like that's what we can get into, probably not tonight because it's 10:50, but like now we could go in, and me and you in the interim in between this time and next time, we could sort of, okay, what do these areas look like and what are you doing in them? Right? Like
100%. And so here's the thing is like, as I start to like conceptualize what we're about to do in this game, because when I did the game mechanics initially, as we've already seen, that was like a sprint to see like, what's the capability? Can we even do this damn thing?
Right.
Like, is it even possible? So why are we going to put all this effort in? I think yes. The answer is yes, we can.
Yeah.
Where we're going to be able to stretch this to an hour and be able to tell a story is that there's got to be a lot of rooms in here.
Yeah.
And a lot of like exploration and little areas that you're getting clues. So it's not going to be so linear as you're going left to right, but there's like, here's a door and you go in here, or there's a hatch and you go into it.
Right.
And then there's like story and there's pieces and parts that you're starting to figure out. And then as you like, so you're going to probably have to, like, let me give you an example. So you start in the tavern. Maybe you're at the bar. maybe you're going somewhere and then you get some clue that takes you all the way to the basement.
Yeah.
You go to the basement, that clue makes you go back to the bar, and then you go into another room that like unlocks another like something that then takes you to like another couple rooms. Like you got to explore and figure this out.
Totally. Because that's why I feel like, so if, let's say you came through here and then you were talking to the archaeologist, he would be like, you know, maybe he wants to know about the skull or something like that, right? Like we had in episode 1, and you're like, you know, I think it's in the basement maybe or something. And you go and you tried you saw back here that there was like a thing to get to the basement, and you're like, oh, okay, I know I can get to the basement now, but it needs a key to the basement. And I know I can get the key from the attic, right? And so then you go up to the attic and you're finding more things. And then you're like, great, I found the key. Back down here to the bottom, open the door, get down into the basement, right? And in the basement, you find something that was hinted at above here in the attic when you went and found the key, but now you need to go back and talk to the archaeologist, right? And he gives you some sort of new piece of information. So you're sort of like going back and forth and finding new areas, like back and forth. So that is a script. Like it's sort of, what are you doing moment to moment back and forth that like you need to, so then you build kind of the experience towards those moments. Right?
And to your original question, which I don't think I ever answered, was like, does the archaeologist just follow you or do that? I don't think they do. Okay. I think that, because think about the story that we just told in the animatic is he's playing it cool. He has a wig on. He wants you to do all that stuff.
Right.
So he's there drinking.
He's just drinking beers.
And like, you should do this and you should do that.
Yeah.
And then like the cool part is maybe he shows up in the brewery part like, oh, you know, you're doing this thing. And, you should probably get out, because he knows that if he takes the skull, he's going to have to fight his way out.
Right.
So he's putting it on you to like get the...
I like the idea of him being a drunk too. And like him being like, when you get into the thing, he's like already over here and he's just popping bottles off of the line and drinking them and stuff. And you're like, what are you doing here? Like, how are you always in front of me? Or like, how are you always getting around to all these places? And he's kind of like, you know, like, hey, you know, I'm just sort of pointing you in the right directions and I'm giving you things like to talk to you about it, but I'm just sort of here in the background. It's cool. Like, you know, so then whenever you come back here, he's always here. But when you're over here, he's over here. Right. And when you're down here, he's here. Like, I like that idea of him just sort of popping up at all the different, because you're never going to be in all the places at once.
No.
But I do like, here's another thing. Does it always have to be the same lines of dialogue when I talk with him?
No.
So like if I go down here and I've now opened up this, when I go back to him, he should have different dialogue and different, maybe a different place that he's at or a different thing that he's doing at that point. Like, I like the idea of you always having to sort of find him or go back to him and get more information or see, like, he is your companion throughout the entire thing. Right. And I think he should be funny, or he should be the, you know, the person that knows more than the character knows, but like knows just as much as the audience or something like that. Right.
Well, so like, you know, let me jump into technical just so I can conceive this, because I've been a little years away from technical and I'm really pulling myself in. And so and I'm going to just verbalize this so I can like remember this moment that I thought is that what you have is, as you collect and you do things, you basically like are going to iterate through some variable. So like if the variable is set to 1, and the 1 is only set because that's just where it starts out as, his dialogue is always like these 4 or 5 lines that might be on random, and you just like, hey, you do this or do this, and you get this random dialogue. You go around, you like open a door and you get into the basement, and now when you touch the thing, variable sets to 2.
Yeah.
Now you go back to the guy and it's like, if variable sets to 2, now trigger this dialogue. And then
can I trigger a different sprite? So like if variable 2 happens, now instead of him being at the bar, he's standing by the arcade cabinet or something.
So yeah, now I have to figure out those pieces, because maybe what it is you just dupe the scene. Yeah. And then the scene just has like him in there. And so now you never really go back to the original scene. You're just going to a duplicate of said scene.
Sure, right.
And he happens to be in that scene. And
sure.
It's like, I think there's some workarounds for how we would do this. And I think what I like about the scaling of this is we're not going so broad that we're going to run out of memory or something's going to happen. So
Thanks for hanging out, South Mouse.
hell yeah, we're almost done anyhow. So, but thanks for hanging out tonight.
Totally.
If you have any ideas on this, I'll touch base with you on that. So
always looking for more.
But no, this is amazing because I think man, this is great. I'm excited. Now I'm like even re-energized because now we have a path for this of where we need to do. So let's talk about this. We got 4 minutes left before we're at our typical 3-hour mark.
Yep.
What I was thinking is we need to almost start to map this out like we were just looking at in those prior things. Let me see this mouse for a second because this is what we need next. Like maybe not even that much. Maybe it's this version of that. So I bought a whiteboard on wheels.
Nice.
And what we're hoping to do is throw that whiteboard behind us so we can start just making this map out. Because I think what we did is I got to give you the credit on this, is that you kind of started with these blocks and said, all right, here's the block. So now let's take the Skull Bob's Tavern block and say, how many rooms does it have? How many, it probably has a hatch in the floor.
Right.
Got to do that for my Evil Dead 2 love.
Nice.
And then he goes in the hatch, and maybe when you go in the hatch, there's a couple other doors down there.
Yeah.
What I love is that it's very mazy and that you have to go through some of these interesting areas.
Yeah.
Because that's what I love about games. I'm thinking this almost like a Resident Evil-esque kind of exploration, a very platformy, shooty kind of part for certain aspects of it. And then I don't know about the RPG yet, if we're going to go to that level of using that.
Well,
I think that's an interesting kind of decision point we're going to have to make at some point.
Let me just even show you one. Oh, I didn't even copy it over. Basically, I had our guy, right? And think about him being 32 pixels tall and the pool table being 16 pixels tall.
Yeah.
It's 160 pixels tall, the actual Game Boy.
Yeah.
And so what you end up looking like if you do the side scroller one is the bar, really a bar, and the ceiling would only be in a legit bar would only be twice the level of his head.
Yeah.
But really it's going to end up being 5 times the level as that, because you're normally jumping around inside of that level. So it's going to be weird if it's going to look like a bar with a huge vaulted ceiling. And you're sort of jumping around up in the ceiling, right? Because if you're a guy that's 32 tall, the bar stools and everything have to be at your waist level, or it doesn't make sense, right? And then the bar has to be at this level, and sort of the bar. So then everything else is just a super tall thing.
Not necessarily. You're thinking of one thing wrong. Is it you could just have a bunch of black and a bunch of black.
Yeah.
And you just put the world
totally
in the middle.
That's what I was thinking too, is you could have, you could just block it out and almost have it a panoramic view, a cinematic view of that. And below would just sort of be mostly black, but then little pieces of wood or pieces of dirt or something like that. So you're see, we're just in this little section right here in the middle. So I was thinking that could be for those parts. But that's why I was thinking the RPG seems cooler for that. If you were walking around a bar or walking around an attic or walking around a basement,
you're right.
You're sort of you're wanting to find things and you're clicking on things. There's sort of more stuff that can be happening with kind of an overview of that. Whereas the brewery could be more platformy, right? There's these really long brewery tanks and you're sort of jumping up and around, and it makes more sense in the the physical space that you're in.
I think you're spot on. And so what we're taking essentially a Metroidvania, and we're taking a different level. It's not all a Metroidvania.
Yeah.
We're adding some other elements into it. And I was gonna we were talking about Metro. Oh man, it has sound. I wanted to use this as a quick example of what this might look like from a Metroid, because if we do it this direction, I gotta click on this. see if I can get it going. So this is a Metroidvania remake, the one I was trying to play earlier and build it. But like, see how it's like black underneath there, right?
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is that like this is how some of the levels could look when you were running around and doing the shooter portion of it, right?
Yeah. So like imagine this as the brewery, right?
Yeah.
And so then you would be like, oh man, I'm in the brewery and I can like punch people and I can do things and there's like stills in the background, you know, and I'm going around and there's like bottles happen, you know, like going along conveyor belts or something. Nice. And so then I feel like this makes more sense then because you're like, oh, it's a massive sprawling brewery, you know, like, or it's a massive sprawling place where you would make hundreds of things of beer.
Right.
Like that, you know, thousands of bottles of beer that you're sending out all across the world because Skull Bob's is so popular. And so then you're like, yeah, you're like jumping around and doing all of these things and fighting these little wimpy guys.
Oh God.
See, it's like, I hate stuff like that in games.
These little things.
These like little nitpicky, pixel perfect jumps.
It's way harder on a keyboard, I'll be honest with you. I can't do it. But I mean, the point was you get these black kind of areas and you're like walking through these corridors, and I could see us being even kind of cute on some of them and having like a skeleton in there, or like some interesting little,
or like a broken pipe or something, right? To show you that it's all old. But I agree, if you do it like this, like think how many of those sprites are duplicated.
Well, look at it. It's like this is all the same. Now this background definitely looks a little different.
Yeah.
But in a general gist of it,
but like I would say 40% of that screen is black.
You're right.
Like, you know,
but that's there's a reason for it.
Yeah,
and
because they're saving it. Right?
Yeah, and
like they're saving
for the size of this map. And so I'm not going to be able to get there tonight with this keyboard. But essentially, if you keep going through this, there's like huge levels that are like just like the brewery.
Right.
The thing is, though, look how quickly you're able to get through some of these levels. And that's my challenge here, is that if we're running through this, it's going to be fast if it's platforming.
But like, I think how you can stop that, right, is by saying when you're going up or when you're doing that, you only have a melee attack.
Right.
And the whatever enemy that you're fighting is hard to kill with your melee thing. So like there, you know, you have an alien or, you know, you have something and it's on a small platform and you know you have to jump up onto that platform and hit him 4 times with that stupid melee, like your cricket bat or whatever that you bought or that you got from the basement. And so, so you're having to jump back and you're having to get him a few more times and then jump back and then be like, okay, I got him. Right. And now moving forward. And so that's like harder to get to all of those things. And then when you leave the room and come back, he's back and you're like, God dang it. Like I died. And so now I have to come back to this spot. And so I think you can do some of that with not only like the platforming and stuff, but also then finding things throughout there. Like we wanted to be telling a story. We should be learning about what the grandfather was doing and all the brewery stuff and like what's behind it. And you find a note from the manufacturer and he's like, how are you making so much beer? You're hardly using any ingredients at all, you know, like that type of stuff.
100%.
And that's how you're learning about like, what is going on with this?
I think we did it. This is what we needed to have this conversation for. And I'm really glad we did, because I'm going to say as of tonight, we've got our storyline, at least a very rough version.
Right. I think it could change, but the thrust of the story is there.
So if we're able to, just to recap, they start in the tavern. There's a little bit back and forth, and you already kind of did some good insights on this. So you got the gray area, which is more non-combat. This is we're going to have subtle combat from getting to something, and then to get out of it, it's like you got the sweet weapon.
Yeah. So it's like hard melee combat up to like sort of get you going, and then cathartic shooting combat going down where you're killing everything. But I don't even know if it's up and down. Like it's just around.
Somewhere in that way. I like the idea though then we either revisit the story a little bit in this space, and then like maybe like you get some storyline and you get some more insights, because I think that's a cool part of the story. Like, why did Grandpa hide it?
Yeah.
What are the reasons that I
Right.
just fought through all this weird crap?
Totally.
And then maybe towards the end of it, you get back into the fighting.
Yeah.
Because something's coming for it, and they're like, oh, we know the thing's out, and then it ends in the battle. And what I like about this is, like, we should end it in such a way where if we're done there, we're done.
Yeah.
But it leaves enough open that if people like it, if everyone's like, yeah, that's like actually a cool story, and we feel like we even have the energy to keep going with it,
Yeah.
we either say, is there another episode on Game Boy Studio, or are we up in our game and go into some other kind of like platform at that point? Does it
Totally.
have the legs to do
Yeah.
the next step on that?
Yeah, exactly. Was it just a thing for us to finish out the Skull Bob story and to cut our teeth on game development? Or is it interesting and cool enough and like popular enough that like people want to see a second, iteration or part 2? Or
So
whatever?
follow our Patreon. No.
Yeah, I know, right?
No, it's not about that. It's all about telling this story. If there was one outcome, I want to tell the damn story. That hiatus is over.
Yeah.
This feels so good. Like, the thing that sucked, I gotta say, from the first time when we did this was wanting to build that game so bad and just not being able to see a path forward.
Right.
That's here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It would be like as if we were trying to build some kind of super complicated website back in the day. And then you're like, well, now I'll just use, Squarespace to make that type of website. And so you're like, all right, cool. We wanted to make a complicated game, and now we can like sort of make a game. We could, we could practice it and do all this stuff on the analog pocket and all of those things and be like, great. We can share it with everyone. Everyone can try the different. It's like way more collaborative than it could be back then either.
Absolutely.
Which makes it more exciting.
Yeah, because like all of this hilariously was done in this room.
You're right.
A lot
That's
of it
true.
was done
That's
here.
true.
And so we always thought like, hey, how are we going to get ourselves like, we didn't get to share these fun conversations.
Right, exactly.
Now we get
Yeah.
to do that.
Now we get to.
Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Like, I
Yeah.
think this has been really formative in the next steps of this process. So we're going to keep involving everyone. We've been hanging out on the GB Studio, or at least I have, on the GB Studio Discord just to get some things. I've been a little cringe on there, but hopefully I can
Watch.
get
You go look at Adam's post on GB Studio. Fun.
in the introductions. I kind of got
introductions.
burned a little bit, but it's all good. So hopefully we're going to take it from there. Is there any other last insights we need to share tonight? Like, what do we want to try to do by the next session?
I was gonna say, like, so I think we should try to focus on the tavern
Absolutely.
and think about what are maybe like 3 or 4 different ways to interact within the tavern, right? That one explains more of the story that is happening and gets people exploring the area in a way that like they spend 10 or 15 minutes in that area. Right?
So we need to get, what I'm hearing is we need the vertical slice.
Yeah.
We need to say, let's flesh out the tavern. Let's make sure you can collect things. Let's make sure you can get some story going back and forth, maybe a character or two in there.
Right.
And so our next goal is to say, let's flesh that out a little bit. Let's see if we can make it. It's almost like the alpha that is that we can build upon so that it actually even gets to a beta.
Nice. They're like, I love the idea of like consuming beer as being like part of the thing, like especially with the drunk archaeologist. And so I think like on the art side, I'm gonna start building things that create a tavern objects in the RPG format, right? Like so that they look like they go in the RP, because there's a difference, right, between it being in the side scrolling and it being in the sort of top down. And so I'll start building things in that sort of style, and we can start, and then you're gonna have to do like, if there was a top down area, right, how do I get something which allows me to then move on to a different part of it, right? Like, weren't you saying you wanted to be able to like, how do I grab a key, hold on to the key, and bring a key to a place that then unlocks a new place.
So it's inventory,
Yeah.
essentially.
Inventory.
Which I have.
And a melee, maybe?
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
Okay.
Melee should be because I already have bullets, so.
And maybe I'll start doing like character, like what does our thank you, He Higley. What does our character look like? What does Roby look like in this version? Because he's gonna need to be a little chibi guy for the RPG look, right? Kind of. What does our alien maybe look like? And then just start building some assets for the bar that we can just throw around.
I feel like you could do this all in platformer, but I think I don't know. I'm struggling with how we should do that right, because in the RPG, yeah, that one would probably be more story driven kind of pieces. And I'm just trying to make sure that the transition between platformer and that is going to be good, because platformer goes quick.
You're right.
I'm going to tell you that. So like we could make this as majority RPG and still have combat in RPG.
Right.
There's no reason we couldn't have melees and bullets.
Totally. And shooting things and doing stuff. It's more just like a different look.
Right.
And
it's like a top down.
yeah, it's sort of the top down, but I like the idea of like they're always outside when you get to those. You know, like I think of the Zelda like style we're going, and I guess you're inside of caverns and things like that. So maybe I don't know. Maybe we could try the RPG for the tavern, right? And if it seems hard or it seems like we're not able to do something like that.
Do both, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we can kind of do a little bit of, I mean, we've already seen the RPG and we see that piece of it.
Right.
How about this? We do know we want to do some RPG. I guess I got to do more technical stuff. It's like, can you pick something up? It doesn't matter what it is.
Because if you're like, I can't do that in RPG or whatever, or it's really hard, or it's really like, you know, then we'd be like, hey, we'll just do the whole thing in platformer.
Yeah. Okay. Platformer and RPG. That's kind of what we've already started with.
Yeah.
Can you get a character that looks similar in both of those worlds?
Right.
Like when you transition, I think that's going to be key for us to make it.
And it could be fun, right?
Continuity.
Like one's a little chibi guy and one's sort of like a taller like part of it. Like you're sort of looking down on them. I feel like that's kind of neat to see the characters like move from those two different styles.
Absolutely.
Like
so let's do this. We're going to start with some level design as well. So I would like to say, like, let's take that tavern, run it to ground. How many different rooms, different pieces might be in that. And maybe we don't even have to think about RPG or platformer.
No, I think you have to, because if you're going to do it as a platformer, it's going to be gigantic, that tavern, right? You're going to have to make it huge with like whole little sections that you're jumping around and doing in. But if you make it the RPG, then it's more like you're kind of walking around inside of the bar and you don't need as many screens.
So I'm agreeing with you there. So yes, but what I'm saying is, it wouldn't matter if you said, hey, here's the bar and there's 10 doors in here, or a door. It's like if we just mapped it out and said, we know we're going to have a bar and there's got to be like this place where you can go down here and this place. And so we just map it and then we can say, all right, let's run it with a RPG or run it with a platformer.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So like, it's almost going
it's
back.
Like, what is the interactive pieces? It almost seems like, right? Like, are we solving, because you would be doing sort of both in either one, right?
Right.
You'd be collecting things and solving things and opening doors and
Can we build this, and it's either going to be top down or like sideways, and we're just saying, yeah, we need to have this, because then we're saying you collect a key here, and then you got to run up to this place and go and get open the door and find those parts. All right.
Okay.
I think we got it.
Cool.
Thank you for hanging out.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Thanks
I was so excited to be able to get to this point. So
yeah,
hang out with us for more of the Hangout. We're going to continue this game. I'm glad we have a year or a little less, because like it's going to take a minute.
It's going to take a minute.
But once we have this like board behind us and we can start to like draft it out, because I think that's totally a next step, is you're going to come in and you're going to see something that's going to be very similar to what we saw in the Hollow Knight. So
right, yeah, exactly. Just mapping out where you are in the world and what's happening in those sections.
Thank you for hanging out with us on the Hangout, and we will see you next time. All right, peace out.
Bye.